auch gleich eine.
Das ist auch so ein Thema.
Das Problem ist, Digga, weil hier so viele Leute sind, die man kennt, kann man so, das ist schwierig.
Warte, jetzt ist an, oder? Ja.
Oh,
Nicht so laut.
soll ich irgendwas Lustiges sagen? Nein, lieber nicht.
Test, ja. Wo sind die Schweine alle?
Say thank you to the founders for trusting us, many of you have traveled, invested money and time to be here. Live up to your standards, and we appreciate the trust put to us. Also, very glad to see your commitment to uni startups. Thank you for making Huh? Huh? Entspann dich, das. It will all be fine.
Ali? Just cut
You guys look the same, with the same colors, same hair, same.
So ein bisschen komisch, wenn wir beide stehen, aber ist okay, ne? Wir gehen einfach so und dann.
Oh, am Anfang sind ja Alan und Samat hier. Dann gehen sie runter. Dann gehen wir drauf. Ja.
Hast du den Stift?
Okay, dann wollen wir mal sagen, wie gut, oder?
Ja, ich würde sagen 10 ist doch gut. 10 ist doch gut.
Und 10 Minuten, nein, die müssen
Ja,
jetzt mal
ja dann lass.
Alan, Samat? Hello, sorry everyone. If you could please start to take your seats. We're about to start in a minute. Thank you. Ready? Well, hello everyone. It's great to see so many of you here. We're really thankful. Before we're kickstarting this event, my co-head, Lawrence, and I thought it would be a great idea to hear from the heads who started last year's event. They founded all of this, and that being said, please join me in welcoming Alan and Samat on stage, and they're going to talk a bit about last year's event.
Hello? Yeah, perfect. Well, hello everyone. Thank you for being here. We're very, very excited to introduce you to the second edition, and well, more than thank you to Lawrence and Freddie for the amazing job and for inviting us to speak and tell a bit about the origin story of Shark Tank Esade.
So a little over 2 years ago, Alain, he actually came up with the idea of the event. He came to me and with the idea of joining the best students from the best universities and the best startups from the best universities with the biggest VCs in Spain. That was the origin of the idea of Shark Tank. I immediately jumped into the idea. I thought it was quite a cool idea.
Right, well, the value proposition of the event was quite simple. Basically, we have some amazing venture capital, business angels ecosystem in Spain, but they don't always get direct access to the top startups internationally, and especially from the top universities in the world. And we thought, well, we can do that job for them and bring them to that opportunity.
So with that said, we went to the president of the Finance Society at the time. He was called Nikitas. And we pitched him the idea. We pitched him the event. It was the first pitch for Shark Tank. At first, he was a little bit hesitant. So he did not think that we could pull off the event, especially because he didn't think that investors would jump on board into a student-run event like this one. His condition for the event, to get one of the top VCs, one of the investors that we wanted to bring, to vouch for the event and to give his green light.
Right, so we reached out to Eneco Kenner, a very well-known business angel in Spain, who miraculously said yes, he would agree to go on the call and basically give faith that the event could actually happen and could work. And so we got him to the call with Nikitas. He was waiting for a very positive review, very positive opinion. And when Nikitas asked him, well, what do you think about this event? Can it work? He said, no, I think 99% of these events are useless, no value, they won't work. And you can imagine our faces then, thinking that the only investor we had brought to the call was basically boycotting the idea. And then Nikitas asked him again, but what do you think about this specific event? Can it work? And he said yes, finally, so we got the green light.
After the green light, we started cold calling investors, we started emailing them. As you might imagine, most of them just ignored us. Most of them rejected us. But there were a few, I can count them with one hand, that said yes. And they said that they would want to partake in this event. After that, we grew a little bit more our investor base, and we had the base and the foundation for the event.
Right. So after the investors, we went on to startups. And the way we managed to get some very high quality startups for the first edition was through finance associations and entrepreneurship associations of other universities. We talked to them. Slowly but surely, we started getting some applications from Europe, from some very good universities, and then through founder networks, we started getting some from the other side of the Atlantic, so Stanford, Cornell, Columbia, some of the big names in the US.
Having started as a solely European-based event and moving on to the US, it was quite surprising for us. Then from there, we built a team. So we built a team of 10 people to handle everything from the event, from the organization and the logistics to the marketing, which was a struggle for us at the time, to the recruitment of startups and to everything that encompassed the event. And the result, with our result, came the first edition of Shark Tank on the 13th of April of 2024.
Correct. I mean, we had to basically pitch. We heard all the pitches. We did some due diligences. It was the first time for the both of us. We started analyzing over 40 applications and getting the top 10 startups that would present in the first edition. Now, only 9 ended up presenting because one of them, 2 days before the event, called us and told us that they had gotten some funding from Silicon Valley. So that was a super valid excuse to not come to the event. We were very happy to be on the same level. And then we finally had our top 9 startups to participate in the first edition.
Now the results from that event, from there we had over 350 attendees, which was a significant increase from anything that had been done by the ESFS at the time. Now we can say that we've done several other events that are on the same scale, hopefully. 350 attendees, 9 startups getting pitches, and which most of them moved on to further funding rounds.
Right, exactly. I mean, as a result of the event, there were over 500,000 euros invested in student-led startups. One of the startups closed a round shortly after the event. A few others closed a round thanks to introductions made at this event. So in that sense, it was a big success.
Most of the startups at the time had not gotten any investment before that event. Many of the VCs at the time had not invested in any startup that was not Spanish-based. And that was what we wanted to create with the event. We wanted to connect the student startups with the VCs and kind of have a greater potential for them. And hopefully we've done that.
Yeah, well, and that's why we're so excited to invite you and welcome you into the second edition. We want to thank both Lawrence, Freddie, and the whole team of Shark Tank for their hard work, their dedication, and of course for following this project that we have, which is giving the most promising student-led startups a real shot at success. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you so much. Especially thank you for starting this great event and letting us allow to take over. So, like you can imagine, we have a rather packed agenda today, and I know none of you came here to see Lawrence or me rambling on for a long time, so I promise we'll keep it rather short. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank all of you for being here. I know it's a Saturday morning. I can imagine most of you had some other things in mind to do today. So thank you for coming in such great numbers as well. Additionally, I'd like to pick up where Alan and Samat left off and just thank my co-host, Lawrence, and the whole Shark Tank team. It really was quite a stressful but very rewarding experience to work with you guys, to putting all of this together. So please join me in another round of applause for the whole Shark Tank team who put this together here.
Now our biggest thank you goes out to our sponsor Glovo, who made this whole event possible. I think for us as students and frequent orders, it's a great opportunity to connect with the company and learn from one of the most successful startups in Spain. And now a big thank you also goes out to our student startups. You've all invested quite a lot of time, even money, to be here, and we appreciate the trust you put forward to us, and we hope we can live up to the standards. Then who else do we have to thank? We have our investors here, We appreciate the commitment to university startups. It's great to know that there are investors out there looking to support our community. Today present we have Ecomenda, Paradise Group, Lanai Ventures, Dozen Investments, Atomic 4VC, ITNIC NQS Ventures. And yeah, we hope you find a startup that fits your investment strategy, and we hope we can connect the two parties here. Now, we want to make sure that for all the startup founders, this will be a success, which is why we have a partnership with B Combinator, which is offering all of the benefits to all participating startups. And now we have Esade Eban, who recorded a small video for you guys, as they can't be here, but they also are offering benefits to some of the selected startups.
Hello everyone, my name is Elena Naya and I am in charge of Esade Band, the Business Angels Network promoted by Esade alumni. First of all, congratulations to the Esade Student Finance Society for organizing such a great event, and let me apologize for not being able to join you in person. Next week, I will watch all the presentations and select one, two, or maybe even 3 projects to take part in an upcoming Esade Ban Investment Forum. This will give them the opportunity to pitch in front of our network of investors, including business angels, venture capitalists, family offices, and corporates. In addition, each of the projects that are presenting today will also have access to our guidance. So you can use our services like legal advice or financial advice, but also some guidance on accessing to public funding. Well, I'm really looking forward to watch your pitches, and best luck to all the teams, and see you soon. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Now I can congratulate you. You made it through Freddie and my speech, and now the actual fun can begin. We want to ask Rosaire on stage to do our first guest speech from Glovo. Please give her a warm welcome.
I think the mic, now it works. Hi everyone, I'm super happy to be here. But first, let me get things straight from the start. I'm here because I failed. And I'm not here because I built a unicorn and I'm coming here to explain my successful experience. I did fail, I didn't create a unicorn, but I learned a lot the hard way. And I think all of those learnings can be valuable for you. Consider this as a shortcut to your success. Now that I'm working at Glovo, I have experienced the other side of the coin, working in a unicorn in one of the most successful startups that Spain has delivered. And I'm super happy to be here because I'm a former Esade student as well. So at once, I was here in your place too. So do you have the clicker? Yeah, perfect. So I will start giving you a little bit of context. This is an introduction, my ride after graduating at Esade. So first thing I did, I was a strategy consultant for some time, and it was super powerful for me as a learning because I became very good at numbers, at analyzing, so having this kind of taste for numbers and crunching them. But also I was engaged in very powerful discussions with leadership teams involved in super complex problems at that time, and I actually got rid of the fear of the unknown because whenever I jumped into a project, I had no idea of the industry. So in several weeks, we were able to gain a lot of expertise, not only by reading and by talking to people, but also being on the ground. And this is one of the things that our consulting firm provided much more value on. I actually woke up, for example, at 5 a.m. in the morning and got inside a van to deliver things to see how we could optimize routes. I was in contact with every single stakeholder in the company, from the sales operator agent until the CEO. And what I observed was that in those kind of companies, sometimes top management wasn't on the ground, wasn't on the field. And this is something that I kept for my whole life experience, the work experience, to be super close to what's going on the field. Then I didn't envy my bosses, so even though I spent 3 years over there, I decided to move and to try in another sector. So I moved into pharma. When I received an offer from a pharma company to join their strategy department, I jumped in. And it was also a super nice experience because I was working hand by hand with my boss. We were only 2 people in that strategy firm, in that strategy team. And actually, she was in the executive committee of this pharmaceutical company. So I was involved in a lot of decisions, and I knew what was going on behind the scenes. One day, I had this dream, this long-time dream, and I shared it with my boss, and she was actually super surprised. And the dream, I always move myself because I don't want to regret not having tried some things, right? I'm not scared of failure, I'm scared of not having tried. And I came up with this crazy idea that I wanted to do a round-the-world trip with my husband. I was married at that time, and actually my boss was super surprised. And it wasn't because I was burnt out of the job. I loved my job, but I just wanted to experience this before having babies. So she was actually super supportive, and she told me, hey, this is a great initiative. At that time, people didn't usually go and travel around the world. I'm talking about a long time ago. And she told me, why don't you come back whenever you finish your trip? And this is actually what I did. I came back to that same pharmaceutical company, but then I started progressing around different departments. I was joining innovation department. I was also working at marketing. I started leading teams. So I went from being an individual contributor into being a manager. In the meantime, I had my first kid. And my family, we come from a family of entrepreneurs. And my grandfather was an entrepreneur himself, and he created a company that my father continued. I never wanted to stay in the family business, but I always had this kind of entrepreneurial spirit. And whenever we went on the round-the-world trip, I thought, maybe I will get some ideas, things that are going on in other countries, and I will find this spark to start my own business. But actually, I had so much fun in the round-the-world trip that ideas don't come to you like that. You really need to work hard for them. And I was just having fun. So at that time, I didn't have any ideas. However, when I had my first daughter, I started realizing that there were a lot of opportunities in the kids segment. And my consulting spirit came back alive again, and I started doing a lot of research whenever I wanted to purchase things for my baby. And then I thought, why not publishing those things in a blog to try to see and sense if there was a real opportunity? Because I had this instinct that was telling me that there was an opportunity over there, but I wanted really to verify and check if the customers were aligned with what I was thinking of. So in parallel to my work at the pharma company, I started publishing on a blog, writing the post like in a SEO manner. It was the beginning of that, and also the beginning of social media as well. And I branded the content as if it was a brand. And actually people started contacting me and sending me emails like, hey, I'm interested in purchasing this. Hey, do you have this? I'm interested. What is the price? And actually, all of those kinds of inquiries became super often. Maybe I had 3 or 4 per day. So when I had my second daughter, I decided that it was the moment to jump in and to finally become an entrepreneur. And this is where I created my own e-commerce. I had it for 6 years. And at the beginning, I was super happy with the trajectory. It was growing a lot. It was a dream for me. So I was living like this kind of dream, feeling super fulfilled by the experience. But all of a sudden, organic reach started to decrease. You had to pay to get that visibility that I built properly with my blog and with all of that kind of hard work, right? And then I iterated the business model because I became a kind of reference for a niche market in Spain in particular, and I was copied a lot. And because I wasn't having my own assortment. So then I decided to, hey, move on into the next stage and become a manufacturer. So I also had my own brand. I started manufacturing. I started having a lot of very good leads to get distributors in Japan, in Mexico, in the Emirates, and France, and so on. But COVID came in, and it was for me like a strong signal that it was for me the moment to move on next. And even though the company was operating and was doing good, it wasn't as big as I expected. And my ambition was to make something bigger. And I realized that the market wasn't booming and it wasn't the right moment, and other e-commerces were much bigger than what I was. So then I decided, well, I will sell the company. So I did it, I sold it. I didn't become a millionaire, and I couldn't retire, so I had to look up for another opportunity. And I decided to unite my previous, I created like a kind of wish list. Where do I want to work? And I said, I want to work somewhere when I can still do strategy, which was my beginnings, that I loved consulting. I also want to get back to my pharma world, in which we had a lot of resources, and I was working with very talented teams. But then I also didn't want to miss that entrepreneurial spark that I had, because I really enjoyed, once you become an entrepreneur, there is no turning back for you. You always want to be in the field, you always want to be innovating. And I found this magic opportunity at Glovo. I became director of strategy at Food Innovation, which was the strategy, the startup within the startup, we called it at that time. We were incubating a lot of super nice projects like dark kitchens, Glovo Ventures, which was a kind of accelerator for restaurants. We were always innovating and having Glovo Concepts, which was a kind of franchise for restaurants as well, with some kinds of diverse cuisines. And actually, when I joined Glovo, we had just recently acquired 2 SaaS companies. And I, together with my boss, Anna, the VP of Food Innovation, we were managing the integration of those 2 SaaS companies within Glovo. And well, it was a great experience for me, because we also were able to see a startup, one of the startups that we acquired that didn't reach product market fit. So we discarded, we decided to shut it down, which was a painful decision. And another one, finally, it was managed by me for some time. I enjoyed a lot working with tech teams, and actually we finally decided to sell it. But this gave me the spark to continue to work at tech, and right now I'm chief of staff at product and also working as a director of product right now. So I'm very involved into that tech side that I never had the opportunity to experience that before, no? So well, let's start with the learnings. First learning, ideas are shit. And someone told me this before, and I was a little bit reluctant to believe it, but actually I can give you an example. When I was studying here at Esade, the last year of my career, we had this subject that was called project management, and we needed to deliver a project from the start until the end. And we had this idea with a group of friends that we should create a kind of place where we could upload pictures of our times at uni so that we could remember them and they were not forgotten. We could have the contact details of our peers and colleagues so that in the future, whenever we left university, we would still keep in touch. We also thought that it could be cool that there should be like a kind of wall where we could put our status or some words to our friends, or just share our thoughts about this experience that we had at university. And for sure, we wanted to make it free for all the students, no? So we were gonna use ads to fund this. This might sound a little bit familiar to you, this kind of idea. This was our execution. So imagine we created a booklet with the pictures, with the feelings of the people, with all the comments, with the emails so that we could keep in contact. And there was also an ad from the Alumni Association, which made for sure that this brochure was free for all the students, right? So, well, this is a good idea. However, the execution was super poor. And actually, Facebook did it much better than we did. So we actually can say that Mark Zuckerberg had the same idea, but our execution was super poor. So please, whenever you have an idea, share it with a lot of people. Don't be afraid that somebody is going to copy it, because at the end of the day, what matters is the execution of that idea. And you need to be extremely good at executing. The second learning is about mastering the pitch and owning the game as well. I have encountered so many times some entrepreneurs that are super good at selling, and you believe them, no? And you say, wow, this person, the way selling that idea, that should be working for sure. And yes, you need that commercial aspect because you need to be very good at selling. But on the other side, you need to be very good at executing, at operating. Because what I realized is that sometimes those kind of promises, if they don't come accompanied by good execution, they never succeed. Third learning is about measure, measure, measure. This is super important. If you don't measure, you cannot detect when something is not good. You need to be measuring the whole time because it's the only way that you can iterate and that you can realize whenever something is wrong. So please, whenever you start your business, find the ways to get those metrics and be super attentive to the slight movement that indicates a trend that something is not going well, because then you can immediately fix it. But you need to measure in order to understand what's going on. The fourth learning is to fall fast. What I mean by falling fast is that sometimes you need to expedite that failure. Build something that is not perfect, try it, iterate. You can then learn about it and iterate, but you need to fall fast because it's the only way for you to learn and to advance. Then you are able to iterate and rise stronger, no? And at Globo, we have done this several times. Sometimes we don't launch a perfect product. We just launch it because we want to see the feedback on how people interact with it so that we can build up something from scratch. That time is precious against your competition because then you're going to be able to have more knowledge and to escalate in a faster way. And this is very painful, no? Sometimes you need to rip the Band-Aid off very quickly, because if not, that pain compounds and compounds, and it's even worse. So what do I mean by that? For instance, sometimes you hire someone that ticks in all the boxes, and you think it's the perfect hire, but there is something going on that you sense that it's not working. Maybe it's some kind of intuition or vibes or not alignment with the values of your company. You need to get rid of that the sooner the better, because if not, it will turn into a much bigger problem in the future. Or for instance, at Globo, we have launched several markets. One of them was Brazil, and it was super painful because we built a super talented and strong team over there, but the timing wasn't correct. So we had competition that was there much before us, and we're super prepared from when we landed at that market, right? We shut it down super fast. And this is very important because shutting down something means that resources, time, focus will go into another place that has much more potential to turn profitable. So this, keep it in mind, and I know it's painful, and I know it hurts, and I know it's very hard, but this is one of the keys of Globo's success. Never settle. This is also one of my favorites. You see the icons over there. These are some of the Globo's values, and never settle is super related to ownership and also to high bar, what we call over there. I can explain you some things about this never settle, no? It's like running a race, but you never get to the end game. You always need to have another goal and raise the bar every time harder and harder. Mediocrity sometimes looks like when you are in a meeting, people nodding, smiling, saying something, it's well enough, it's good enough, don't worry. These kind of discussions, we don't have them at Globo. We are not political at all. Whenever people share documents or share things that they do, we always provide feedback to make it better. We never provide feedback saying, hey, well done, nice job. No, because we don't have time for that. We have time to iterate and to improve, and we all have the same goal, and you have to keep your ego aside, right? So I have also a very powerful example. This is the presentation that my boss prepared a week ago. He came back, he has been at Globo for 6 years, and he's the VP of product. And what did he do? He went on holidays to the Canary Islands for Easter, and then he came back with a presentation with all the feedback he got on the field. So usually whenever he goes on holidays, he does what we call Globo Cares. So he just takes a bike and he delivers. He logs into the Riders app and he becomes a courier. He has been 6 years at Globo. He has done more than 700 Globo Cares. And he still continues to do this, and he still continues to find things that we can improve. So this is for me like a very good example of what this high bar and not settling means for us as a company. Then this is also very related, no? So your customer knows best. Sometimes we tend to think that we know what our customer thinks. At Globo, we have several WhatsApp groups in tech shared with customers so that we can gather their feedback whenever we launch a new feature, and they are the ones that help us iterate. I have seen many examples of startups receiving poor feedback from their customers and just ignoring or finding excuses for those failures, right? And at the end of the day, we end up shutting down those businesses because they haven't been able to react quickly and to raise stronger, as I mentioned before. This is also super important, which is the typical, this is a Peter Drucker sentence, culture is a strategy for breakfast, and it's super true. With this, what I mean is that you need to have very talented teams, teams that are willing to fight for the company and that are super related to that strong culture. And basically, I have a very powerful example, which is Ukraine. We are super proud of this country at Glovo. You know that the war started in February 2022, and our first worry and concern was to keep everyone safe, so we wanted to stop operations. However, 1 week later, the Ukrainian team came to us and begged us to reopen the app and to continue to operate, because they thought it was the right thing to do. And they were the ones trying to convince the senior and top leaders at Glovo to let them do that. And we did, and you can see the results. You can see that they not only grew extraordinarily, but they also were EBITDA positive. And they continue to operate. This week they had some bombings in Kiev. There were 70 people injured, not from our company. And they asked us, for instance, to continue to operate in a shelter, because they said, hey, we're getting all these kind of bomb alerts during the day, and it's super annoying because then every day we need to go down into the shelter. Why don't we put our offices already in a shelter so that we don't need to get distracted by these bombing alerts that happen super often during the day? So, well, this is an example for me of culture. Then 9th, learning, and I'm just finishing. It's working hard. Sometimes we think that we'll deliver and yield positive results, but you need to be extremely focused, because if not, it's a waste of time. And finally, stay lean, which is also another value of Glovo, which is stay humble, which means that gaining weight is easy, but losing weight it's not. So whenever you are gonna make a kind of decision in which you need to invest in something or you need to grow your team, just think it twice, because then whenever hard times come, you might regret it. And just, this is the recap of all the learnings, and a final reflection: luck sticks to sweat. So it means you need to work hard. At some point you will fail. Don't worry, learn, iterate, wake, raise stronger, and then if you are lucky, if you sweat enough, that luck will stick to that sweat. So this is what I wish that all entrepreneurs here will have some luck sticking into their sweat. Thanks so much.
Thank you for sharing these great insights from your career with us. And now we're going to start with our first pitch. So I'd ask the 2 remaining Q&A leaders to please join us on stage. And while you get up there, let me say 1 or 2 lines about our first startups here. Our first founder is coming out of Munich, Germany, from the Technical University of Munich. And his startup is tackling some quite severe, as I understand it, problems with legacy code, but he can explain all of that to you himself. So please join me in welcoming Ali.
So I know I'm talking to a business school, but imagine for 1 second that you are a software developer and you're super excited because you're starting a new job and you think you'll be working with some really, really cool tech. And then bam, reality hits you. You're faced with legacy code. So code that looks like this. It's millions and millions of lines of code, and they're all interconnected in ways that you don't understand. So what do? Well, of course, you get up and you try to talk to people who actually been working at the company before you, so you can ask them what the code is supposed to do. But most of these people have left the company, retired, or even died in many cases. And the business logic that is running the company is lost in these millions and millions and lines of code. And you might think I'm exaggerating and that this is an edge case, but I promise you it's not. Legacy code is everywhere. Every time you swipe an ATM card, 95% of the time, there is some legacy code somewhere in the basement of a bank that's being executed that no one understands anymore. So our modern world stands on the shoulders of legacy code. And it's costing a lot of money. So 75% of IT budgets for most companies goes into keeping the lights on legacy code instead of adding new features and new business value. It costs as much as 20,000 euros in onboarding of new software developers before they can actually be productive and create new features. It costs as much as 3 to 5 euros per line of bad code. Now imagine this for millions and millions of lines of code. And as Wall Street likes to say, it's a $1.52 trillion legacy code problem that we are faced with. And it's costing you more than money. So compliance and security risks are always looming because you're never sure if your software will stand under the weight of new and new regulations that come your way. Not just that, your best developers are leaving the company, so you're not sure anymore if in 1 or 2 years you will have anyone who understands the software that runs your company. And your competitors like Revolut are beating the asses of all of these old banks and all of these companies because these banks just cannot be as fast and agile as the new competitors are in the market. Well, and the real problem behind all of this is the business logic. So what is the value that your tech is, or the tech is providing to the business is trapped in the legacy code. And what this means is that every change that someone makes to the code is risky. Every update, every new feature that someone has to add to the code is slow. And every effort to modernize this system is just a shot in the dark. And even if you do get the business logic out, it doesn't really matter because in 1 or 2 weeks, it will again be legacy because then no one will understand it anymore. So the documentation for it will again become outdated or missing. And then the changes to the code will no longer be reflected again in the documentation. And this again implicates that developers will spend a lot of time trying to understand before they can actually be productive. Now, if you're a company that is lucky enough to have one of these code bases, what are your options? Well, of course, you can always do nothing. There's always that option. But with the implication of no one understanding your core software as a bank, this is not really an option. You can also, of course, hire consultants. That usually works out. You can pay them millions of dollars, and then they will spend 10 years modernizing your software. And then after 10 years, your team will still not understand what's in there. So you have the same problem once again. And of course, you can throw AI at it. And AI is really, really good at a lot of things. But the task of understanding and mapping large, complex, undocumented code bases is sadly not just one of them. But it can definitely help. And this is precisely why we built Bevel. So Bevel is an AI extension automating and centralizing legacy code documentation for clear, up-to-date, and code-centric business logic. A lot of buzzwords, I know. So let me show you what it means. So we map and document the business logic across the entire code base. So you have this one single source of truth for your entire company of what the business logic is and how it is reflected. And not just that, we tie it to the exact position in the code, so your developers can jump between the documentation and the place in the code where it's implemented, and can understand and be much more productive. And like I said before, the biggest problem with documentation is that it's never up to date. So what we do is we flag automatically all outdated documentation as soon as you change the code, and we update it automatically, so you can always rest assured that you will have this single source of truth. We fit right into the workflow of developers. They can not just work alone on this, but they can also share it with their team members over Git. This also integrates well with all of the AI tools that are currently using, such as GitHub Copilot or Cursor, probably you have heard of it. And what we do is we provide the context to these tools. They're really good at writing new boilerplate code, but they struggle with understanding complex old code. So we are the layer between us, between legacy code, and these tools, so we give them the context they need to be much more better at writing new code. We enable developers and other AI tools to be up to 10x more productive working with legacy code. We slash onboarding time by up to 90%. We help developers debug in minutes, not hours or days. We help developers add features and ship features in hours and not weeks. And most importantly, we help companies have happy developers. And in terms of money, we help companies save 3 to 5 euros per line of code. We think of Bevel as the final tool that you need to never worry about your legacy code ever again. And we made it a no-brainer to get started with Bevel. It's 100% local. Everyone has a problem with data leaving the company. It's 100% local, and when we say local, I mean local. So it's on the machine of the developer, so on the laptop of the developers. Nothing, not even a single byte leaves the developer's machines. It's read-only, so the companies can rest assured that we don't break anything super critical when they use our tool. And we offer it for free. We actually planning to launch in the next 2 weeks. So you can go to our website, stay tuned, and you can also, if someone of you is into vibe coding, you can also use it. And we also ship it for free to companies so they can see the value up front. And if they see the business value and the case with their developers, then they can come back to us and we can upgrade to our licensing model. So if you know someone who's working at one of these companies that I described, I was talking yesterday, and apparently Glovo could also be one of those companies, then definitely reach out to me. This is my LinkedIn. Reach out to me, send me an email, follow us on our website. And if you know someone who might be struggling with the problems of legacy code, send them our way. We bring expertise from the best universities. We are from TU Munich, studied at MIT, University of Cambridge, and have expertise from all the best companies in the world, and we're ready to take on this $1 trillion legacy code problem. Thanks a lot for your time.
Perfect. So Sharks, as the presentation was a bit over 5 minutes, you now have around 7 minutes to answer, to ask any questions you might have. Yeah, so please go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks so much for the presentation. The software coding space is super exciting as well, very crowded with tools and so. My question would be, in terms of how far are you in, kind of how far have you been working on this project? How many live users, I suspect, do you have? And do you have any retention data, right? For you, the core metric, I think early on, should be monthly retention, hopefully very high. Can you tell us something about that?
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of how long have been working on this, we are almost 6 to 7 months in. And the market, as you said, is right now is still blue ocean. So a lot of coding tools out there, but they focus a lot more on the code generation part. So greenfield boilerplate code. So this market is still more blue ocean, but there is still a lot of players in the market. Also the big names like Accenture, McKinsey, because this is what they do for a living, which is modernizing legacy code. And in terms of how much customers, so we already have now we're gonna have 4 pilot customers. So we are not doing bottom up, which means we're not going the way of saying, let's do product-led growth. We talk to these companies that are working with legacy code. So most of these are big consulting companies in Germany, and they're already modernizing core banking and insurance software. And right now we're running pilots with them for the last 2 or 3 months. And now we're signing 2 or 3 more customers, which are also consulting companies. And the reason for that is just because it's a much easier go-to-market for us. And we're also signing revenue share with them. And right now, retention, not really the most important for us right now because it's still pilot and we don't have any churn. But once we have more users and more companies, then it will become much more relevant.
Okay, I thought of a different coding world. I think this is more the enterprise coding world, not the global coding world, I suspect, but let's see, right? So it's, because you're a consulting company, I'm in the software business, right, in different ones. Normally we would never hire a consulting company. This must be very big companies that hire consulting companies. And there it's focused on documentation, like what's the use case there? Why would this be so much better?
Yeah, so documentation is just an intermediate step. So if you want to think about modernization, there is 3 steps. The first one is reverse engineering, which means you not just look at the code, because code can only tell you 50% of the picture. There's other sources of data. Could be the company's wiki, Confluence or something like that. Could be other things like operational logs, data dictionaries, all of that. So we do reverse engineering. And then the second part is understanding or making it understandable for people, which is intermediate value already, because these companies, when a consulting company starts, they need to firstly do an audit of the entire code base and try to understand what is in there before they can actually modernize it. And it's not a one-off thing, they have to do it every single time. They change something, they have to first go to the old code base, see what the business logic was, and then try to re-implement it. So that's the documentation part. But then there is very cool, interesting things you can build on top of that, which is, like, for example, writing test cases, or in the end, having an AI that can do everything end-to-end. So you can plug in your old software, it can give you the new software, but we're taking it one step at a time.
Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot for the presentation. That's a real problem. And as Jan told, it's a very crowded market. So execution will matter a lot, more than ideas, right? But to be honest, I want to know more about how do you integrate it with your client? Like, how long would it take? How manual is it? How plug and play can it be? And do you need a lot of manual human time to actually make sense of all the business processes inside a company that will use your tool?
Yeah, so I would split the question in two parts. The first one is just integration itself, and that's super easy because it's a VS Code extension. We just ship it to them and everything is local. And companies get really surprised when we tell them this. So we don't do anything. We just give them the extension, they can just start using it already without even having an AI model either hosted somewhere or in-house. So the integration is really easy. There's still a lot of customizations that we need to do, and that's why the pilot projects come in. Because the problem itself, legacy is a bit broad. It has a lot of flavors, and we're still in the pilot phase where we still have to, from the core technology that we have, we still have to add use cases and tweak a bit things, and that takes a couple of months at least for us, and that's why we do pilot projects to customize it. But in the end, the goal is that at some point we will move away from this services more like some services that we do right now and just productize the whole thing. And in terms of getting to the customers, we do it through consultants, which I was saying before. So we give it to them, they use it themselves, and then they offload us to their customers because their customers still need to understand what the new software does. So that's the whole go-to-market right now. And in the end, we'll go directly to those companies ourselves.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, it's super interesting. There is really an opportunity over there. I would like to know a little bit more about your revenue streams, how you build your pricing, and do you have different pricing models? How do you tariff that?
Yeah, so really transparent answer. Pricing is always like this, and there is pricing right now and the pricing we want to have. And the pricing right now is we charge a few thousand euros depending on the complexity every month for the pilot, and then we charge per user. So we charge 20 to 30 per user per team, and usually they have hundreds of developers. So it's still the contract volume per month. It's still thousands of euros per company, but we want to move away from this. And the reason is just because our thesis is the number of developers will go down per company just because of AI. We want to move towards value-based pricing because that's the future of pricing. We don't do it yet because we are not 100% sure of the value we provide. We have not quantified it yet. So right now it's per seat, and afterwards we want to move towards value-based pricing, but we're still not there yet.
Thank you very much, Ali. Our next startup recently actually won a startup competition at the University of Mannheim, and I'm quite confident that he's going to be able to surprise you and convince you, just as he did shortly before. So please join me in welcoming Jeremias.
Thank you very much for introducing me. Yeah, I'm Jeremias, and I love hotels. In fact, I did a bachelor's in hotel management back in Switzerland, and I went through basically every department you can go through in a hotel. And most recently, I did asset management for around 40 hotels across Germany. And that taught me one main thing. Hotels are just really, really inefficient. Imagine you take over the Esade hotel group. It's 4 hotels, economy hotels, different sized, and they make around 20 million euros in revenue in a year. And that sounds pretty solid, but at the end of the day, that's not much profit left for you because hotels are very expensive. Your biggest cost center is going to be rent, but that's more or less fixed. Your second biggest cost center is your staff. And like most hotels, you've already squeezed your teams to the max. And then your third biggest cost center is energy, water, and heat. So your utilities. They cost you around 10% of your revenue, so 2 million euros every year. And they're the fastest growing operational expense. So you know you have to do something about these costs. And currently you're just as smart as most hotels out there. They don't know if they're efficient or if they're inefficient. If they have a portfolio, they don't know which hotels are efficient or inefficient. And that's where we come in. We benchmark the utility usage of the whole portfolio and the separate properties with comparable competitors. And we create an easy to understand benchmarking report that anyone can understand, even the non-experts or people who are not from the energy sector. The process is relatively simple. We collect some basic building data, so that's the size of the hotel, some tech stats about the hotel, where it's located, how old is the building, stuff like that. All of that flows into an algorithm that we have, which finds the most comparable competitors in the region, and we create a so-called competitor set, comp set. And the operator can change that comp set if they like to. If they want to be compared to a certain hotel, they can do that. And then we create the benchmarking report, which gives transparency to all the decision makers, and they know where they have to bundle their resources and which of the problems they have to tackle first. Our business model is relatively simple. We charge a subscription fee of around 300 euros per property per year for benchmarking. But obviously the hotels give us the data, so we can, on an anonymized basis, sell this data to other stakeholders. So for example, an investor in hotels, an owner for hotels, or someone who manufactures different tech for hotels. And we, with the benchmarking, identify inefficient hotels. And we can then connect these hotels with the right partners, technicians, consultants, etc., on a commission basis. Now I know you probably don't love hotels as much as I do, and this all sounds very hotel niche-y, and I thought so too, but after doing some research, I found out that this is actually an issue for every non-residential building. In Germany, that's 21 million buildings alone. So hospitality is really just our wedge to get into the benchmarking business and doing energy benchmarking, and later on we want to quickly benchmark also an elderly home, and then a hospital, a school, an office, and so on. Now, there's a bit of competition in the space, but we stand out by being very research-backed. We're very transparent in who we compare with. Like I said, a competitor, like an operator can change the comp set if they like to. And we're from the hotel space. We understand hotels. We know what are solutions that they can actually implement, what are solutions they can't implement. Now, that benchmarking works as a business is proven by STR. They benchmark only 3 KPIs for around 65,000 hotels across the globe. And they were sold to the CoStar Group, which is like a data brokerage firm for real estate, for $450 million. Now, we're not quite at that size yet, but we have launched a very successful pilot project. We launched around 3 weeks ago and have more than 46 participating hotels now. That includes the 5 largest brands in Germany, hotel brands. And I actually couldn't update this yet, but we also just recently got the call that Marriott is joining, and the Circle Collection, which was the hotel where we had a mixer yesterday. And also, like I said, like Lawrence already said, we won the incubator, which is one of the incubators of one of the most successful and best business schools in Germany. But I've not only convinced some business people and the hotels, but I've also convinced experts in my field. So my co-founder, she has more than 10 years of leadership experience in different hotels and has managed a asset portfolio of over €500 million. And we have quite a few advisors and supporters who help us along the way. Now, currently, we're looking to raise a pre-seed round of around €300,000. That's all going to go into the development of the product and getting really fast early traction because we have strong network effects. So we want to reach around 500 hotels in the next 18 months. But we're not only looking for the capital, we're also looking for strategic partners who can open us the doors to the right partnerships, get us into the doors of energy consultants, real estate people, hotels, etc. So yeah, I hope you are all convinced, and I hope that you join me in bringing some transparency into non-residential buildings, because transparency is essentially what is going to enable us to be more efficient. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And Sharks, the floor is yours for 10 minutes around.
Congratulations, super exciting to see that you already get some traction. I was wondering, how are you going to differentiate from those competitors that you were mentioning? Which is the key aspect of your value proposition related to what they are offering right now?
So some of the competitors are governmental bodies, so that's usually the US and Australia. They obviously don't operate in Germany or in Europe in general. And then there's a few other benchmarking services in the DACH region or in Europe, but they're either not focused on hotels, so they don't really understand that, or they're mainly a consultancy business and they just benchmark to get a few leads. And we really differentiate with our algorithm. We're very transparent in who we compare you with and why we compare you with these people. And that's what hotels are used to. Most hotels, like I said, they use STR for their benchmarking of other operational KPIs. And there you can choose and select your own comp set. And that's really what hotels want and need. And that's what I've heard from other operators, that they say, like, I get a benchmarking report, and if it doesn't tell me who I'm compared to, I don't trust it. And that's what is really differentiating us quickly at the moment, yeah.
Regarding the lifetime value that you see from your service, is it going to be something that you foresee as a recurrent service or only as a one-shot?
Mm-hmm. So currently we're using yearly data because a lot of the hotels have issues providing more granular data. But even with yearly data, we're looking to have it as a recurring service. So that's why we have a subscription fee, because most hotels, they benchmark, they want to improve, they want to see then, did they improve? Are the other people catching up to them? Or are they like losing the pack? Something like that. And then when we have monthly data, for example, or weekly data, it's going to be even more recurring.
Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot for the presentation. Thank you. And but yeah, he deserves it. Thanks a lot. Yeah, quick question. You're raising 300K.
Yeah.
That seems like very low for what your ambitions are. So can you tell us why that much money and what for?
Mm-hmm. So we want to stay pretty lean, and we're mainly focusing to develop the actual platform. So we have the algorithm, we have, with the pilot project, we're currently in the phase of collecting the data. But we want to automate that whole system to get the data more automatically, because right now I'm spending hours like fusing databases and stuff. That's mainly what is going to go into, and we want to get hire someone who does tech, because right now in my team we don't really have a techie. That's what most of it is going to go into, and then also a lot of sales activity, because we need to convince these huge hotel chains that have like 100, 150, 200 hotels across Germany to go in and go all in with their whole portfolio. And that's what most of the money is going into.
All right, makes sense. Thanks.
Congratulations as well for the pitch as well. I think it's fantastic that you do something good for the world here as well in terms of positive impact. So you have as well, I think, a special group of investors to address here. I was part of the investment of the EIT basically, that with Kick Energy that invests in this space, but there's World Fund and other ones that are dedicated to this space, which I think is fantastic. My question, I see the market as well somewhat crowded, I must say, and I have a bit concern as well that you do an efficiency kind of benchmark. People are interested in benchmarking, right? They do it once, they generate the cost savings, but then how can you do that over again? Because normally then they say, hey, we know that our heating system is outdated and we have to fix it. It's certain capital investment trade-offs, whatnot. We could put solar cells on the roofs, but we know what that is. So I think people more or less then know the situation, and then how can you keep that recurring, right? So to me, a core question here would be, how do you pitch it first with your, I think those are pilots, right? Is that a for-paid pilot? And how do you assure that it's really a software product and not just a benchmarking report? Mm-hmm. And to me, totally, it's a journey, right? So it could be one way to get it all started, but to understand a bit how you want to kind of think about product development here.
Yeah. I actually have something prepared for that that's going to help it, maybe make it understand a bit more. Like you said, we're starting with the hotel benchmarking. That's like the core where we want to get like our foot in the door. And we want to get that recurring by, for example, doing smart metering. So a lot of the hotels don't have smart metering right now. They don't have the data to actually look at it. So we want to partner with, and we're talking with some of the smart metering systems to partner with them to help them install it. And then they are like locked into the system with us for at least a few years. And we're also not trying to just be the benchmarking. We want to help them improve, so connect them with the right partners. And very, very far in the future, it's also including this data in the pricing models of hotels, because revenue management is really starting to grab in a lot of the hotels and taking that data into account and what costs they have and choosing which types of business, for example, they want to accept. If it's group business, that's something that we're looking for in the future, but that's 3, 4, 5 years down the line.
heads up, no, and, you most likely have them on the radar. This whole other area of competitors, and that's the CO2 reporting, right? That came from the European Union, mandated reporting basically, especially for these big hotel chains, they have to do it. And I could see, we've been meeting with a bunch of those in the space as well, that many of them think, well, the CO2 reporting is an important one, we got to do it because it's legally required. However, we spin it internally as well as efficiency programs. So I think you have many there that kind of come from that angle, but in the pitch side and in the sales side will compete with you eventually because they say it's all about efficiency at the end, and that's what we care about.
Yeah, we are aware of the EU regulations that are going around with the CO2, and that's also something that is interesting for us to look into. With the pilot right now, we're really trying to validate that the benchmarking, how much value it brings, and that it really convinces the hotels to join with their whole portfolio. And then growing this from just benchmarking energy, water, and heat to then also including stuff like CO2 and helping with reporting is obviously something that is also very interesting for us down the line. It's just, like I said, the benchmarking right now is like our foot in the door, and from what I've heard from quite a few operators, they're doing the CO2 benchmarking, the CO2 reporting, but it's not really helping them figure out how good they are and how they can improve. And we help them by looking at the competitors, which the reporting doesn't enable them to do.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So our next two founders are coming from IE and UPC and are working on a specialized AI software for law firms. Please welcome Ricky and Bruno.
Good morning. We are also global. Also stands for organize, store, search, operate. And we are reinventing how legal professionals interact with information. The average lawyer works 53 hours a week, billing an average in Spain 130 euros an hour. Now imagine working at a law firm. Emails, notifications from the court, legal filings, audio recordings, scanned PDFs, information just piling up. And when you need it the most, you can't find it. And even when you find it, why read through thousands of pages when you could just ask a question? That's where also comes in. We save time for lawyers, exactly 38% of their time. That's over 130,000 euros per lawyer per year in billable hours. So, what's also?
Also fully automates the process of initially getting the documentation, classifying the documentation, searching through the documentation, and interacting with this documentation for all the documents on the legal field. We are specialized in using this old documentation so that lawyers can rapidly find information, but also get structured outputs from this information. We do not only manage the part of getting the information through, but the way in which this information works with the lawyers. Going through this, the way in which we actually work is that most of the software we actually handle doesn't only require one input from AI. We use multiple sources and multiple different aspects of the AI software. One of them, for example, is for managing. Once all the data comes in, the data stores themselves and classify themselves by things like the year, the name of the client, and specific Spanish legal data. Our AIs are specifically trained to be able to sort all these files without any human interaction. After that, lawyers can manage multiple key features to being able to actually use the software furthermore. Like, for example, being able to find a specific document or documents across hundreds and thousands of files in an instant. Once finding these specific documents, they can make questions across thousands and thousands of pages to get either extensive summaries or a specific coding that is actually special for them to the case that they are going right now. This is thanks to our advanced OCR system, our extremely advanced and unique AI systems, and also with a really good data analysis. We do not only put an input data in through the AI, we have an engine that transforms all the data into ready for LLM user. Also, apart from this, we completely changed the way in which lawyers interact with information. It's not only about saving them time. This comes across the way in which they see information itself. We don't only save them time, but we completely change everything. It goes from reading through thousands and thousands of pages to actually just being able to make questions. They don't have to remember where the information is anymore. They just have to ask. Also, we'll give them the reply with accuracy, speed, and a lot of context. Additionally, we have much more other features. Like, for example, an AI legal assistant is specifically trained on Spanish criminal law, as CRM EPS that's integrated for the whole workflow of not only legal companies, but probably any company, and also a system that integrates with absolutely other input sources for information.
So, Spain has more than 150,000 lawyers and more than tens of thousands of law firms. That means that our market in Spain, if we got every single lawyer, would be 470 million euros. The opportunity is clear, and the time is now. The problem is solved.
Of course, it's differentiation. We know that there are a lot of other databases, there are a lot of software management for documentation and a lot of other AI tools. But just based on our benchmarks, we differentiate ourselves just with our MVP on more than 10 different benchmarks from other competitors. Because we didn't only understand how we could use AI to actually read through documents, we know exactly how the legal processes work in Spain. This helps us not only build a system that has new features or that integrates a whole ecosystem into one, but also improving features that not any other AI app has itself. Such a system that don't only use semantic search, but we actually created our own way into actually finding information through thousands and thousands of documents, having much more context than normal and average AIs. Apart from this, we also transform the way in which the data is inputted. As if you may try ChatGPT, put a complex chart on it, it's not going to be able to give you a good reply. All these things just make also transform complexity into easiness, to make them have more time so that they can be faster into doing the things that they want to actually do.
So, our team also is born from the balance of deep legal knowledge, technical excellence, and a strategic vision. Ricardo Álvarez Osorio Fernández is our executive chairman. He's the managing director of one of the most renowned criminal law firms in Spain, having been awarded multiple international prizes and having access to a key network of contacts, legal knowledge, and a clear vision. Bruno Gómez Málaga, my co-CEO, has over 3 years of experience as a full-stack developer specializing in AI, and since this project started, has turned down roles as CTO and more recently as AI developer in startups like Vapi, valued in over 130 million euros. Myself, I have dual qualifications in Spanish law and English law from King's College, and I specialize in digital law. So I bring a unique hybrid vision that bridges traditional law firms and new technologies. And we don't just come to the market with a hypothesis. We come with a tested product in the day-to-day of the legal practice. These are just some of our first clients who will have the product implemented this summer.
Based on our estimations and on our revenue, on 2025, we are expecting to do, without investment, around €500,000 just in revenue. For 2026, this number goes up as much as almost €3 million. And for 2027, we're planning to make €7.5 million just based on our clients. But you may be asking, what about if you actually had investment? For investment, we would be planning on 2025 to do a little bit above €1 million. On 2026, do around €6.5 million. And on 2027, we have two different schemes. One is a conservative one, which conservative could be around €13 million just based on revenue. And if we actually do a realistic one for 2027, it would be around 16 million euros just on pure revenue. This is not only because how fascinating our system is, because also our pricing system that really enables us to give profit while lawyers actually feel that their money is being spent wisely.
Also was created to solve a real, urgent, and costly problem. And it does so with a proven solution built from within the industry. We're now looking for strategic partners to help us accelerate this process. Imagine having more time. Imagine thinking faster. Imagine what you're going to do with your new time. Also, thank you very much.
wonderful project, super exciting as well. Maybe one quick one first. How did you come up with the ideas? Because it's rather unusual as well. Were you working in that space and they said there must be a better way? Or what's like a little bit why?
Well, the idea was born between a combination of the three founders. One of them is sat down in the venue. He's the managing partner of a law firm, as I said, and he has very good software skills. And I love digital law. I have always had a big passion for both law and technology, so I always wanted to do something relating to this. And I saw a clear opportunity when I saw his skills and our resources. So we decided to start the company.
Cool. No, I can definitely see that. Regarding the deals you have for the, it seems like upcoming summer, the customers, you had great logos there. Like, what's the deal there? Are they paying for this? Is it like if you deliver, they pay? What's the structure there?
Of course, yeah. So we've scheduled the payments, which will happen soon. And then we'll implement the product into their law firms in this summer. We've said that the maximum period for implementation will be the 15th of August for these 9 law firms. And that will already get us halfway through our financial projection for this first year.
Cool. A final one from my side would be developers. You're an amazing lead developer. How many other developers do you have on the project?
Well, we've used, you can answer this question if you want, but we used multiple freelancers, 5 in total, and they're relatively recurring freelancers.
Yes, especially because, of course, for the software purpose, we actually developed the MVP quite fast for all the features that we have. So it was mostly me doing the whole overview of the job while having some freelancers to speed up some parts of the process. But that was essentially it. On the team itself, for now, it's just me as the main developer of all the different aspects of the features, such as front-end, back-end, AI development, whatever.
And if you allow me to add a bit more to that answer, we've been developing the software for over a year now. So it's a perfect storm that this event happens right when we're about to start implementing it into law firms. So we're very excited.
Thank you.
Right, that's a lot of features. Congrats. Maybe a question about the competition, because there's a lot of companies launching in that field in many different countries, and I want to know if you've done your homework and know why some failed, and lessons to be learned from people doing that outside of Spain. What can you tell us about those people?
Okay, so regarding the software and our competition especially, I think that everyone focused on making a software for how they think lawyers work. Because whenever we met with our partners and we actually started looking at how law firms actually work in their day-to-day basis, a lot of the features that most of our competitors have only work for so specific use cases. The fact that they use rack system that, for example, can only let you interact with around 100 pages long and you can do semantic search, that doesn't really make the purpose of actually enabling. We made a really deep research into what our competitors were trying to do and where were they going, and we noticed that none of them were really following the same path as us, especially because we have a really deep insight into what law firms actually do every single day and what are the most useful keys for them.
The thing is that we've already implemented our software in a law firm. It's not just a hypothesis, as I said before, and we've been developing it within the law firm for a year now. So the good thing is that we don't just get a comment from a lawyer saying, oh yeah, I would want the software to do this, but then maybe you develop it, and then you execute it, and then they're like, oh, but I thought it would work this other way or something. They've actually tried it, so it's tried and tested already, which I think is what differentiates us from our competitors.
All right, very clear. Quick question on the cap table and the co-founders dynamic. So if I understand correctly, you have a lawyer that is a co-founder, right? And is implementing your tool inside his cabinet, right? All right, so maybe question on that, like, will you be able to sell it to any lawyer firms, or will having a lawyer firm in the cap table be problematic to sell? Because most of the time we see if we have like a CVC, a corporate venture capital, or competitors into the company as a co-founder, some firms can be reticent to get the new tool implemented. How do you see that?
Well, I think we'll give them some ease because we're not training a foundational model in the LLM. Of course, it's a very touchy subject because in particular criminal law has many GDPR rules applying that makes it a very complex subject to navigate. But luckily we're a legal tech, so we know a bit about law. And we're giving the confidence to these law firms that it'll be fine. In my opinion, these 9 law firms wanting the software implemented proves that they're okay with this. And also, we've done like a field study with dozens of law firms, and they don't seem to have a problem with this.
All right, no, very clear. And maybe last question. I always stick when I see co-CEO. So, who decides?
Essentially, we have the 2 different roles because we complement ourselves each other really, really good. I'm mostly part of on the technological and advancements part of the company, and of course, as you said before, the legal part and the legal aspect of how we manage the legal part is actually really important. That's where he comes in. We divide our roles perfectly, so we don't only have what we're best at directing, each one of us, but also combining our potential credibility, so knowing exactly what we have to do in every single step, not only on the technological side, which is important, but also on the legal side, which is extremely important, as you said before.
It's certainly a beige flag. I'd say that it also reflects the area where we operate, because legal tech is complex in the sense that most law firms are very, very much traditional, and tech companies are very modern. Sometimes that causes a clash, and we believe that it's good to have a bridge. Companies like Notion and Oracle even have had co-CEOs and have done fine with it. We've investigated really well into that subject and talked about it with many people because we want to make sure that this works well, of course. And so we do our best in splitting the responsibilities of each co-CEO and seeing where each one has the final last word.
Yeah, some of them work, and I wish you guys will work for sure. But like startup game is such an execution game, and you have to be so speed with your execution. And sometimes having not one person saying, "Okay, let's go," it can take a bit more time and lose a bit of the speed. But I like the dynamic of you guys, and I love the fact that you're already implementing in law firms to actually know what they want and build with them. So congrats on that for sure.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I really like the fact that you are focused on a specific segment. I think this will give you a lot of capacity to get super in deep and differentiate from your competitors. However, I would like to go back into the slide where you compare, you have that grid, and you are comparing with several AI players. I think this slide is very interesting, and whenever I see it, I try to figure out which of those are a real moat, right? That there is no risk for other players to finally end up over there in that space as well. And I'm missing one very important thing over here that can be also like a differentiating factor for you, which is regarding privacy. I guess we were talking yesterday, and you were mentioning that IP protection and that data privacy was a very important differentiator factor, and I don't see it anywhere in your presentation, and I think it should be here in a line, because ChatGPT doesn't provide that kind of privacy, for instance.
Exactly. So most of our other competitors, which are Leia and Harvey, they do provide privacy. Privacy was actually the founding in which we built the whole system. But we believe that this benchmarks that, of course, whenever we compare privacy against ChatGPT, it wasn't a thing. Against the others, they also provide privacy. But all of these benchmarks are AI benchmarks that I think not only prove the fact that we are advanced in the AI technological side and all the different benchmarks that we actually have against them, but this really, and all these benchmarks really get us to understand why exactly other softwares cannot handle the kind of information and other features that we handle. But we're 100% agree that we can maybe add some of privacy there.
Yes, I would like you to highlight from all of these features which ones are your real moat, or you think that will really create that differentiation and that other players won't be able to go there and reach the deepness that you're willing to reach.
I think it's actually all of them, because the software, and one of its main differentiations from other software is that a lot, for example, of Leia and Harvey just manage on the drafting part of things. So you can upload documents yourself and then you can ask questions to the AI, but that's it. It doesn't go furthermore. Ours actually does. So that's why there are so many features. We don't only handle whenever you have files in there, but we handle how files get in there, what you can do with files from there, and also how your clients are in there, such as a CRM, where you can have all your data with your clients. So we're really trying to be this complex solution that covers most of the parts that a lawyer requirement needs, because we don't see much value into having multiple softwares where you have to do multiple things. And that's why we also wanted to cover as much things as possible for the lawyers into one simple software.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I know this has been quite a lot now, and you all are probably looking forward to some coffee and a little break. We are going to do that, but before that, we have one more great startup, which came all the way from Germany to present here in front of us. And they are tackling a pretty interesting topic of the long overdue digitalization of local sports clubs. But he can explain that to you himself. Please welcome Pascal.
Hi, my name is Pascal, and I'm one of the founders of NooNoo, and we make community club events simple, secure, and stress-free. Think about a time where you really felt passionate. I think of that moment when I was 7 years old in the athletics club, and later then in the football club, just the last game, the final. And when I turned 18, I could finally join the carnival club and party in my village. In fact, in Germany, there are 600,000 of those clubs with 4 million events each year, building the backbone of tradition, friendships, and passion. But there's a problem. Most of those clubs are run by volunteers, and their passion stops really when paperwork starts. Because think about it, you are a volunteer expected to work like a pro, expecting to handle cash like a pro, expecting to do everything like a pro, and you don't get paid, you don't have the tools, you don't have the time. Take cash, for instance. Cash, you have to organize it, you have to even pay for it at the bank, and you have to count it after the event, which takes a lot of time. Then, we live in a digital world with digital expectations, but clubs are falling behind and they're losing revenue, sponsors, and visitors. And digital alone isn't enough. Without a system, without a structure, there is no progress, there is nothing to be gained. And that is why we found NooNoo. We thought like having passionate people, doing passionate things shouldn't feel like work. They should have more time for what really matters. And we ask ourselves, wouldn't it be wild if there would be a solution to combining all ticketing, point of sale, volunteer management, sponsoring, everything you need to host an event in one solution? And we actually did that. Looking at one of our customers, Robert, he's the head of a 4th League handball club, and what he does right now with NooNoo is he can plan ahead of time, he can sell tickets online, he can give his volunteers with our ticket scanners at the entry access control rights, and they can scan the tickets. And the cool thing, all the point of sale stuff is handled through us, through payment terminals, and at the end of the event he gets just one bill, and he can send it to the tax office, and the event is settled. Now, that is really cool, and it totally works, but it relies still on hardware. And this autumn, we will launch all of that possible just from out of your pocket. So he can easily get his volunteers up running with new point of sales just out of his pocket. And now you are thinking probably, or does it pay off? Does it pay off for those clubs? And yes, it actually does. Robert just received this season more than 18% more revenue per event. Through that one bill, he could save a lot of more time, and actually he could save 4 more volunteers. Now, that is really cool. Those are really cool facts, but what makes us really happy is they got promoted this season, and Robert had finally the time to watch his team win and be a fan again. And it is what we are all about. Looking at our business model, how do we capture that value? We earn through licenses, rental fees, and transaction, and have the potential of data monetization because we have all those consumer data and transaction data to model regional markets. And all of it is 100% compliant and secure with the GDPR. Looking at the market, the club market is a 3.8 billion euro market, And we are targeting right now semi-professional football and handball clubs with a 500 free target market, 500 free euro target market. If you think about competitors, NooNoo sticks out in one simple thing. It's lean, simple, and it just works. Other solutions need workarounds to do what we do, and they're just too complicated, or their price model doesn't work out for clubs. Looking at our traction, we already have 10 paying customers on our roadmap and 133 more clubs to come, where we're still in negotiations, and we are already having a revenue up to we already have a transactional volume up to 5,000 euro each month. And we have the goal to reach 4.5 million transactions by 2028 with a 2.4 million in revenue. Now, the team behind NooNoo are all people from that world. We are all coming from that club background, and we are combining sales expertise, user experience expertise, and technology expertise to bring that passion back into those clubs. And we are looking for a 400K investment to reach our goals in that 3.8 billion euro market and get back to that child in us, that passion we had as a child that never left us, and build a platform around it. Thank you so much. And I guess I'm ready for your questions now.
Yeah. I would like to get to know a little bit more about the tech behind. Yes. Can you explain which are the current features that you have already shipped? Are the ones that you explained are already working, or is it a plan to get there?
So right now we're working like this. We basically get third-party payment terminals. Like, for example, one of our partners is SumUp, but we have also other partners. Sunmi is one. And we deliver those terminals with our software and aggregating all of that data. On the ticketing side, that is the payment side. On the ticketing side, we have our own solution. So we're basically integrating in the website of the club our ticketing shop, and the club then gets aggregated of all this payment data, one bill at the end of the event. That's how we're operating right now. And what you saw there is, like, in autumn we integrate all of that point of sale and the ticketing thing in one application on your phone, so that also the clubs can easily, send a link and then get a new volunteer up running in minutes.
And when you're talking about an application on the phone, is it iOS, is it Android, or is it a web-based?
So we work with React Native, so we are cross-platform, so it will be both Android and iOS.
And how do you foresee your tech team in the future? How many people do you have right now, and how do you foresee it whenever you raise that fund?
Okay, so right now it's just the three of us plus some students who do their thesis at us, and we also working with some service providers. But to reach that goal, we just need one more full stack developer, full-time, and we need 2 students or 1 full-time who supports in sales and marketing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
No, thank you for the presentation. And clubs actually need definitely some platform like this to manage correctly, that's for sure. In France, we have Helloasso, and we need actually more. You're asking for a lot of money for development, and there's a lot of open source components you can actually grab. I wish we had like a demo of your product, and for every startups, I wish we had that. Yeah. But maybe can you explain me, how do you sell to clubs? Like, are you going to show them the app already, or are you building with them? What's the stage of advancement in terms of features and so on?
Basically, we go to the event. We say, do you want to do digital payments at your event today? And then they use our payment terminal and do payments on the day itself. Tickets is more tricky, because with ticketing we have sometimes contracts running of those clubs, so it's harder to enter there, but there we have meetings, and then we discuss with them what is possible. But our entry point into those clubs is digital payments, because Germany is really under-digitalized in that sphere, and people are expecting it.
All right. Are you using like Stripe on the other end?
So on the ticketing side, we are using Stripe at the moment, but we will soon switch to another payment provider. And on the payment side, we were using SumUp, and that will also change soon. It depends on like the fees.
Right. Very clear. And maybe a quick question about like what drove you to this idea, and how did you gather the team?
So actually, we didn't start with the idea, we started with the problem. Jonas, the third founder of the techie in our team, he had a club, and he had exactly this problem. They had events, and it wasn't working, and there were so long queues. You waited I don't know, like 1 hour before the event. Even people went to that club 2 hours before to get a ticket, that they had a seat. And we thought, why don't you digitalize that? And then we started with that. And then, you know, in team sports, you have always home and guest team. And then the guest team said, like, hey, we need something like that as well. And then we went through the league. And that's basically how that 10 customers came about. Right. Yeah.
Very clear. I'll finish not with a question, but with a warning maybe, because I've seen a lot of startups trying to tackle the clubs and associations. Yeah. And it takes a lot of time to actually acquire those customers for a very low basket at the end. So you will need to have some kind of virality effect. Yeah. And either you create content, or you have clients producing content as well. But you'll need to create that viral loop for sure. If you
that's actually really cool, because we started to working with municipalities now. So you think about clubs, they always have a stadium, they always have a hall or whatever, and that is paid by the government. So basically, they give the analog infrastructure, and we offer on top of that the digital infrastructure. And it is especially in those carnival regions, because it's also a big tourism magnet, a huge thing. And so we started to working with municipalities as well to get around that problem. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Definitely see as well the problem. First as well, I thought of clubs like being much smaller clubs, but it seemed like you're going more for the mid-market. They almost
exactly,
like semi-professional ones as well, which I think that's an exciting space potentially. But I do see as well non-for-profits and clubs. They have their unique things. They're not very rational actors potentially as well. I want to dig a little bit deeper on the pricing side. You say you have 10 paying customers, if I understood correctly. Exactly. And you have revenues of roughly 5,000 a month?
At this transaction volume, we have revenue around 1,500 a month right now.
So that means you have quite the credit card processing fees, and so they eat up quite a bit of that, no?
It depends on, for example, in ticketing, PayPal really eats a lot of transaction fees or costs. On the payment or on-site payment, it's a bit better. But yeah, costs are there, but yeah.
And so what's your target pricing, like normally for the super average one? And my intuition would be as well, it's more the mid-market that you want to go, or the bigger club market. What's your target pricing for the average one that you're targeting? And that as price, and then like how much is that? Because you have a little bit, because you have to work with the payment company, so they take
so in on-site payments is 3% on the transaction, and ticketing is 8%, and that is a standard in the ticketing space. That's not much more. And licensing wise, it's so all that point of sale you see is like one module, and you can start with 2 modules, which will give you basically 1 point of sale and 1 ticket scanner, if you will. But if you need 3 or more, then you pay 15 euros a month, and if you have a large event, then you pay 35 euros a month. Yeah.
So that as well, my suggestion in general would be for people that maybe don't have, there's not so much into the space. If you need personal sales, and I think you need to have meetings if it's not a product that grows, you need price points of at least 500 euros a month or 1,000 as revenues to you. cannot include payment processing fees, because I think of the 3%, you most likely have to give away 2.5% or so.
No, it's less, it's 1.5.
Or 1.5, no, but still, like if you do the math. So I think try, and I would encourage everybody, try to get to cash for you as almost think of clean SaaS fees, of 500 euros minimum a month starting from there. Ideally 1,000 is kind of like the target that you need. If you need personal sales, the classic rule with 3-4 meetings, and so I think with clubs it's way more because there's so many people and very hard to make out who's the decision maker and so.
Yeah.
But cool, I mean, push it forward. Final thing always as well, and I would address it to the larger audience. We see here it's a pitch event, so it's about raising money. My question almost would be to you as well. You have hopefully money coming in at times as well. It's better just keep costs low, hustle early on. Don't make this a VC case, which is might
No,
not be.
it's not a VC case.
No, and you can have a better life and you can actually make it work.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. I think it's time for a little break, 15 minutes, and I'll see all of you back then. Thank you.
Hello guys, could you please take a seat? Marshall. Yeah, go. Yeah. Huh? Sit down. Hello guys, please try to take a seat as soon as possible. There's a speech. Oh, okay. Right. As you wish. Okay, thank you guys. I hope you had a good break. I won't take long. I just want to introduce our next speaker from Glovo. Please have a warm welcome for the next speech.
Thank you. Hello. So let's start with the second pitch today. I'm here to talk about winning. I'm not here to talk about any inspiring journey on my own. God forbid. I'm happy that we left that to Jose earlier today because, yeah, you would be quite bored anyways. So I'm just here to talk about how winning can shape the business and how winning also shapes our profitability, right? And so let's start with why does winning matter? In our industry, in the online delivery industry, winning matters because we're not offering financial services, we're not a luxury brand, or we're not a SaaS, meaning that we don't have big margins. We are just delivering burgers and many other things, of course, but that means that volume is everything to us, right? In this industry, the first one, the first player takes most, and the second place really struggles, right? So what does being number one give us is the opportunity to benefit from what we know it's network effects. I'm pretty sure you're really familiar with this term. And this is basically a wheel where when you satisfy users, when you get the users and the users get to love you and are loyal to your brand and to your product, this means that they will probably then inspire or just make sure that the restaurants in our case, or retailers, any vendor, any partner that we call them, also want to stick to your platform, right? And that means that also then the riders that are delivering your orders will want to also stick to your platform, be more engaged, and want to join Glovo and collaborate with Glovo. And that is what is, turning into a flying wheel, right? And that's what it's gonna allow us to keep growing and keep developing our business in any market, in any ecosystem. And what these network effects also give us, as I was saying, volume is really important because this is not a margin industry, is this the opportunity to benefit from economies of scale, right? And not only then you will have a constantly growing business, but of course you will be able to do it in a much more efficient cost structure. So this is really important to our industry and of course then to us. And this has always been in our core approach to how we do business in any market. So let's talk about competition. Of course, we cannot talk about winning without talking about competition. So let's start with a question to the audience, because I know it's Saturday morning, so this is not being easy for everyone. So do you think competition is actually good? Raise your hand if you think so. Cool, almost everyone. Perfect. Anyone that thinks that competition is not a good thing? Okay, I see also some hands. So for me, honestly, if you ask me, I would always say my personal opinion as Marta is that it is good, but, and especially from a user's perspective, right? From a user's perspective, what I want is the platforms or whatever service that someone is offering me to have competition so they constantly become better at what they do and they really become user-centric, right? And they're interested in what I want. As Jose was saying before, customer is always right and they know better than you. So as a user, I of course prefer to have companies competing to offer me the best. From the company perspective, I would also say that it's super important and that actually is something good. However, it depends, right? It depends on what is, in our case, what is the maturity stage of the market, not only global as a business, but actually the market. And let me give you examples of this. So in low penetrated markets, what would happen is actually that competition is really good. This is just some examples, Kuwait and South Korea, examples of highly penetrated markets. This is the number of orders per capita, which is, it's really high. And if you look at the graph on the right, this is Globo's market penetration. Not only our penetration, which is in yellow, but also the gray one, which is our competitors. So the most penetrated market in Globo is half, it's having half orders per capita that what South Korea, is doing, right? So there's a huge opportunity when it comes to penetration in most of the markets where we operate, or well, actually in all of them. So what happens when there's such low penetration? Again, competition can actually help grow the category. And let me give you an example. This is just an example from, it's a real case example of a competitor, of a market in Africa where we operate for many years now. And this was, the graph that you see here is the downloads of the category, okay, of the delivery, online delivery category. And what is happening is that, well, Globo, since we launched, we were actually not growing, but flying. The rest of the competitors, especially competitor number 1 and number 2, they were also steadily growing, and their downloads were accumulating in a good steep. But look what happened when the competitor number 3 decided to invest heavily in the market. They were sort of a dormant player, and all of a sudden they decided that this was going to become one of their main focus markets, and they invested way much more in, let's say, top of the funnel of acquisition of users. What happened is that not only we kept growing as well, and the downloads were kept coming to us, but also the second player, competitor number 1, grew exponentially the moment the competitor number 3 started to invest. So what this means is that, and this is a really low penetrated market for Globo's portfolio, what means is that actually someone else investing in the category was making the category grow. And we also had the opportunity to take advantage of that, because we still need to shape the behavior of a lot of people, right? Like ordering online is not something that comes to everyone just as a normal thing. Maybe to most of you it does, but not to all the generations, and especially not to all the cultures and all the countries. So this was actually a good thing, let's say. By the way, we still win in this market. We're still number 1. And at the same time, the lack of competition can kill your ambition, right? This is another example. If you were paying attention to the previous slide, you know which market it is. Where the player number 1 in that market was significantly distant to player number 2 for the longest time, and they were definitely winning, right? Again, this is just the downloads of the category. And actually, well, you can see some sort of plateau tendency at the end of 2023. And what happened is that this number 1 player was really comfortable. There were a lot of things that could be improved, definitely in terms of especially user experience, but they were comfortable because they were so big and they were just so clearly winning that they didn't really focus that much on improving, right? And what happened again is that player number 2 decided that it was going to be a focus market, and they not necessarily invested more, but they started doing things differently. They started listening to the users much more in that country. So not only with player number 1 kept growing, but again, more plateau than before. Player number 2 in 1 year could stole actually a lot of the market share of this market. And if we look at 2025, it's actually also player number 1 is still struggling, right? Because they realized maybe a little bit too late that they were too comfortable. So again, I think competition it's a good thing. And that brings me to an example that is somehow also connected to what Jose was explaining before. Competition is good, and we need to be obsessed with winning, but not obsessed with competition. Meaning that we need to know what's best for us, right? And we cannot just copy-paste whatever others are doing, even though they might be also winning. It's not just about copy-pasting. And there's an example of one of our markets that had a really big shift, let's say, in the macro context, where we started from scratch. No, it's actually the case of Ukraine, when everything was just shut down and all the businesses were really struggling to even operate in the market. As Jose was explaining, we decided to operate and not only do that, but actually what we took was advantage of the situation to sort of start from scratch and reinvent our business, or at least focus on what our business really meant, and stop obsessing that much on what the competitor was doing. Basically, we were obsessing with the top 2, top 3 QSRs in the business, in the market, sorry, because it felt like it was the right thing to do, right? And one of them was, for instance, McDonald's, and we were super obsessed with, giving everything in our business to McDonald's, because losing them would mean almost, losing the market. McDonald's was closed for many months after the war started, and so we had to reinvent ourselves, among other reasons. And when we did that, this is actually bottom line, it's not top line. What you can see is that we actually started to be profitable. It was a really unprofitable business before the war. And after the war, just because we focused on what we knew it was the best, and we started listening more to what was going on and what the users wanted, and the different stakeholders, of course also riders, we actually started to also make profit out of it, right? So obsessed with winning, but not obsessed with competition. Still, it's good to know what others are doing, definitely. So this is just one slide to give you a sense of what Glovo's competition is, and also take advantage to show you where we operate, because not everyone knows that we operate in 23 countries. So this is our footprint, and these are our main competitors. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with all of them, or you've even used them. So yeah, just an illustrative slide. So again, why network effects and economies of scale are important? Yeah, I mean, some companies are also okay with being number 2, let's say, and that's still okay. They're not winning, but they're surviving, right? And they are, offering their services, their products, etc. So it cannot be that bad, right? Again, in our case, it's not about margins, it's about volumes. So we definitely need to care about winning, because it's the only way to actually have a healthy, sustainable path. And that means sustainable EBITDA and bottom line. So I'm here to give you some illustrative examples about this. Let's start with 2 countries in Glovo. Look at the numbers on the top. This is sort of a really summarized proxy P&L. And by the way, CPO means the courier cost, which is basically what we sort of compensate to the riders delivering the orders, which is super important because it's one of the biggest captions in our P&L in terms of costs. So if you look at those 2 countries, they're really different in size, yes, but despite the difference in size and different realities, macro context, etc., competition, what we see is that one of the biggest differences is also the category share, what you can also call it market share, which is in country through actually almost 70% or even above that, depending on the month. And what you can see is, despite not having maybe this economies of scale benefit or advantage, this country, since it has this network effects much, much faster than the first country, is able to give the same gross relative numbers in gross profit than the first country. But you can say, yeah, still it's not comparable. Size is really, really different. So let's move to examples of markets that more or less have the same size. And by the way, this is all like real numbers. Of course, I'm not giving you the countries and so on. I'm not allowed to, but it's real numbers, so real percentages here. Different situations when it comes to category share again, no? Country A, country B, country C, more or less the same size, but country B and C are struggling. We are struggling, or we were in 2024 in those markets to actually be number 1. We were not number 1 in those 2 countries. We were in number A, in country A, sorry. And so one of the lines, again, that is super important for us is the cost of the delivery per se, so the courier cost. And as you can see in relative numbers, in country A is much lower than in country B and country C, right? And again, one of the reasons is because we have this flying wheel way much more stronger in country A than in B and C, meaning that the riders want to stick to our platform because we provide them with better and more, especially more deliveries, right? And sorry, you can again say it might not be comparable, right? Because this is maybe not apples to apples, because of course what happens in terms of seasonality or what happens in terms of Even the weather might be different in those countries, which is of course affecting operations. Okay, fair enough. Let's go then to the comparison over time, right? Because averages are a little bit, tricky sometimes. So this is the same numbers, the relative numbers over GMV of the courier cost over time, country A versus country B. As you can see, actually in this country, what happens is that there's a lot of seasonality, which is true during summer. And what happens is that a lot of couriers don't want to deliver orders because they're offered better jobs just during the summer season, better paid, right? So still, there's not much significant difference during that period of time, which is summer. And even though during the rest of the year where there's no seasonal effect, still the cost is much, much higher than in country A, where we have more market share. Same with country C, where what happens is that clearly during winter, the bad weather is, the weather conditions are much, much worse. So of course, there, it's fair to say that it's more expensive, right? Even though we were having the same, let's say, market share, category share, it would still be more expensive because of those weather conditions. But the rest of the year, where the conditions are exactly the same, it's definitely not the case, right? So still, in this particular example, I wanted to give you two more metrics that we track, which are courier retention, which is again how many couriers stick to our platform after 6 months of their first delivery, and then the percentage of tenured couriers. These couriers will definitely, the tenured ones, will definitely give a better customer experience because they know better our platform, they also know better the restaurants, the different retailers, they know the users better as well, the city per se. So they will provide a better experience, meaning that, again, contributing to this network effect and this flying wheel much more. So, yeah, two clear examples of metrics that prove that it's important to be number one. Now, let's go to another example, comparing a European market to an African market. Again, relatively same size, actually almost the same size, but completely different culture, moment in developing their financial ecosystems, etc. Right? So what happens in these two markets, and again, category share is really, really different, is that, for example, marketing cost for us, it's much, much cheaper. Now, you can say that maybe in the African markets, media is cheaper, which is actually not the case in most of them. For instance, we operate in Nigeria, and the cost of media there is huge. But this is not Nigeria, so, well, it can be a fair reasoning or a fair guess. This is, however, not the case because of the inefficiencies that the digital infrastructure has in most of the African markets. So it might be cheaper to invest in media, but then to convert users makes it much more expensive, right? Because from the download of your app to the actually first order that they place and the payment that goes through that first order, there are a lot of inefficiencies compared to any European market, right? So actually the cost of marketing is not more, it's not cheaper in the African market. So that's not the reason why we have a relatively lower cost in marketing. The reason is actually two sides. It's again network effects and also economies of scale. Why? Because let me start with economies of scale. So we are relatively big or bigger in the African market versus the European market, meaning that the total addressable market it's smaller in this African market. Therefore, we are already really big. We are almost the Amazon of that country. That's actually what the government says. And that means that we can negotiate better. So the rates with all these media agencies and all the different marketing channels is just cheaper because we have more bargaining power, right? So again, economies of scale. But again, also network effects. Why? Because if you also look at this, I hope you can more or less see the numbers and so on. So the darker green color is Globo Uniappers, means users that only order in Globo. They don't use other apps. Even though they have the option to do it, they don't, because they prefer to just use Globo. So what you can see is, again, network effects. Since we are already number one, we managed to be number one on time. Users prefer our app, because they will find better restaurants, they will have better customer experience. So again, this is a flying wheel that it's playing in our favor. So that's the reason why, again, marketing it's more efficient for us than in this other European market. Same example, let's go to, so same markets, let's go to the revenue lines. So in the African market, we try to have a really affordable strategy. We try to be, let's say, as not cheap, but as affordable as possible. Because of course, the purchasing power in that market is lower than in the European market, right? So despite trying to be more affordable, which is gonna impact your revenues, of course, also the cost is gonna be lower for sure, but it's gonna impact your revenue. Despite that, we managed to deliver in relative numbers the same revenue compared to our GMV than in the European market, where definitely we are not an affordable option, by definition at least, right? And that again is because of the economies of scale. Why? Because with all the different partners that we have more bargaining power. We are able to take a little bit more from the operations with them than what we are able to do in the European market, simply because we're better than the competition and we are giving them more growth than the competition is doing, because we have almost 80% of the category share, right? So again, economies of scale is really, really important. And finally, so again, you can think, I'm not sure you're still comparing apples to apples, you know, so let's take just the same country over time, right? In this country, we've managed to overcome some of the big obstacles that we had in terms of category share by just focusing again on what the customer wants and understanding what the customer wants and how to overcome the different macroeconomic obstacles that we might find on the way. And what is happening is that all the different lines are improving over time, but because we are improving our category share as well. It would be impossible, believe me, in this country, because it's a country with 5 different competitors and 4 of them are international competitors. So we play against Uber Eats, Bolt, Wolt, and Just Eat, and also a local one. It would be impossible to improve our P&L if we were not focused on becoming #1. And we are #1 now, we were not in 2023. So that's how we managed to actually turn from a negative EBITDA to actually a positive and delivering more than 20 million euros this year in EBITDA. Now, leadership at any cost. So what you might think is, okay, so in terms of, so if I want to win in the short term, I need to invest a lot of money now and just go irrational, go crazy, so that I can actually be profitable in the long term or in the mid to long term. So the answer is, the first answer is no, second answer is no, third answer is no. So simply no, okay? It's not about investing at any cost. We've seen it in the past. You might be super familiar with Getir, Gorillas. The growth was just on steroids, right? They were just winning during a certain period of time just because they were investing irrationally. What happened is that they actually closed. They had to sell in most of the countries and just discontinue a lot of operations in many markets because it was just growth on steroids. They never focused on what really was sustainable and being a #1, understanding what the market needed, what the users needed, and so on. So we need to invest where and when it's necessary and it's correct. And for that, we have a winning framework in Globo, as in any other company, of course, you need to have a winning framework, right? What makes a winning framework or our winning framework successful or actually executable and really powerful is that it's hyper-local, meaning that it's not only about getting to know the country, you actually need to know the cities, and in some of those really big cities, you need to even know the neighborhoods, because it's not the same when we talk about Pedralbes and we talk about, I don't know, San Antonio, El Born, or even Poblenou, right? Every neighborhood is gonna have probably a different behavior, and you need to know it and adapt your winning framework to it. Flexible, because of course, you know, shit happens. All of a sudden, the government can come to you and just make an employment labor model, which is, of course, super disruptive. And you need to be flexible and adapt your winning framework constantly, right? Also rankable, because you will find a lot of priorities when you try to understand how to win a market. You need to be able to focus on #1, #2, and maybe #3, but probably even just #1, right? Once you are achieved or overachieved in that lever, then you move to the next one. And finally, also scalable, right? Because whatever you do today, you cannot just do it in a really scrappy way, even though, you know, you're a startup or a really small business, because if you want to grow, you need to have tools for this to be scalable in the future and be more efficient. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I think that was very interesting, and I hope you have learned something. Be sure to take the opportunity later to also ask some questions. But now let's welcome Hopla. Luca will be representing the team from Esade, NYU, and Q.
Why drive alone when you can Hopla all the way? Hi, I'm Luca, and I'm here to represent Hopla. Carpooling platform not only about traveling from point A to point B, but about transforming the way we travel between cities. If you want to lower travel costs, reduce environmental impacts, and meet new people, Hopla is the perfect place to do so. So everything started when we became campus students, and as you know, student life is filled with dynamic and constant movement. Some of us own cars while others don't, so we often share rides in order to save on fuel costs. Additionally, we experience how comfortable and convenient it could be to share rides for intercity travel. And that's how Hopla came to be. In today's regional market in Georgia, we face several challenges, like heavy traffic on the road, rising fuel prices, environmental pollution, uncomfortable intercity traveling options, and inadequate schedules. These are the challenges that we face daily and cause significant discomfort for both passengers and drivers. Hopla, on the other hand, successfully addresses those challenges. As for the passengers, it gives them ability to travel affordably at their own convenience, and it reduces travel expenses for the drivers. But Hopla's social impact goes way beyond solving logistical challenges. A full carpool can reduce carbon emission by 75% per ride, and also Hopla fosters community and connection amongst travelers, therefore turning solo rides into something memorable. Now let's take a look at how does Hopla actually work. Meet Anna. She wants to travel from one city to another. She pops up Hopla's application. She pinpoints her departure and destination location. She adds any kind of filters or restrictions she has for her co-rider, and Alex pops out. Alex is certified driver for Hopla with over 100 rides and positive user feedback. And just like that, under 2 minutes they match and they're on their way. Also, it's important to know that Hopla's full-scale application is already fully developed and ready to use. So now let's take at the journey we come so far. First and foremost, we passed the validation tests through manual testing. After that, we successfully obtained Amazon, Google, and Microsoft grants for startups, therefore covering all our operational costs. We have signed a partnership deal with Whistle Group, which is a leader for both restaurant and travel industries in Georgia. We have just recently won Global Social Impact Award, and raised initial grants from the organization as well, and currently we are in the launch phase. Now let's take a look at the markets we're going to be working on. First and foremost, global carpooling market is estimated at 13.4 billion, and that leaves us untamed market in regional and local sector for 3.5 million local in Georgia. Globally, our main competitor is BlaBlaCar. BlaBlaCar doesn't operate on either Eastern European or Georgian markets in Caucasia. So our potential customers try to connect via Facebook groups, but Facebook groups lack adequate functionality and reliability. Our business model is C2C based, and we take fixed commission from each and every successful ride. And on average, that would be 2.5 euros per ride, but our revenue model, and we are looking at carbon credits as our potential revenue stream in the future. In the initial stage of our operations, we are planning to target those niche market users in Facebook groups. So it's consisting of roughly 200,000 users, and on average they commute 50 times per day. We also successfully acquired one of those groups consisting of 10,000 active users, and that gives us ability to create strong momentum and creates foothold in that niche market as well. In the first year of our operations, we want to target and hit that mark of average 50 commutes per day. That would facilitate around 18,000 rides and also generate 45,000 euros in total revenue. Our team consists of both software and business developers. We have work experience both together and individually, and with our expertise and our motivation, we're ready, confident that for Hopla to be a success. So we're just one road trip away from revolutionizing the way we travel in the local and Eastern European regions, and that's where we need your help. With just 80,000 euro investment for 10% stake in Hopla, you can come along this journey with us. Thank you for your attention, and travel with Hopla. Okay, also feel free to scan the QR code to check out our application as well. Thank you.
Congratulations, super exciting, and also I see it's something new in Georgia. My question is related to how are you going to build trust and confidence and safety for those rides?
Yeah, so that was a problem that we'll be tackling through Facebook groups, because reliability has been a real issue, and cultural thing has been an issue in the local market. So we are just handpicking the drivers currently. As I already mentioned, we have Facebook group, active 10,000 members, and we're taking this kind of Airbnb approach as handpicking the drivers, handpicking the passengers to really deliver this quality service, and after that grow our brand awareness, and after that everything goes smoothly for the mass market adoption as well. So yes, to answer that your question. Thank you.
And we actually have one of the co-founder of BlaBlaCar into my Angel Syndicate, and I'm sure we'll love to hear about it. My question would be about acquisition and client acquisition. What's your main driver today and tomorrow to actually get those clients to know you and trust you?
Yes, so again, we have this great knowledge of markets. We have been working those for past a year and a half. So we personally start to grow to know our potential clients, and we actually, through our website currently, we made a few test rides to get everything running smoothly. So there, through tests and various other things, we found out that reliability had been an issue, although sometimes Facebook, inside the Facebook groups, drivers and passengers simply don't match, and there's so much problems, and Hopla successfully solves those problems, and yeah, there's been this demand for the application, and we're ready to deliver it. So.
All right. Any specific network effect, like we talked about in the last talk? Yeah. Do you provide maybe the opportunity to share after the ride is done, to share on social media? Yeah, I've done this amazing ride with Hopla, and get a few discounts.
Yes, that's the plan, because growing community in it's a sensitive project, sort of to say. So growing community and having that community to be eager to share their experience with Hopla is very something to top list and top tier list to market our product as well. So yeah, it's something that we are looking for.
Right. Thanks a lot. I'm sure affiliation and gamification will get you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, great pitch. We had a great chat yesterday. I had a question regarding the business model. I'm sure you've thought about it. Why not test B2B, cheaper acquisition, the chance to build a recurrent model? What do you think about this?
B2B? So yeah, we're looking at B2B right now, and so we're looking at opportunities, because there are some companies that want to connect inside the Georgia as well, so connect their employees to their other co-employee. There was parking lots, so much cars were on parking lot, and they wanted to build that application. So actually we are in contact with one of those companies in Georgia, and maybe in the future we will scale up to B2B and change approach as well, so add any kind of service from that perspective as well. So,
okay, thank you.
We're considering it. Thank you. Thank you.
Many thanks, Luca. That was very interesting. Now let's welcome Rosario from IE, aiming to revolutionize the restaurant space.
€1.5 million. This is how much a restaurant chain in Spain is losing each year due to demand uncertainty. But where is this demand uncertainty actually coming from? First, inventory. Restaurants usually overstock in order to be able to satisfy customers, but they might end up throwing away food. Additionally, sales. They might understock in order to reduce these food costs, but they might end up missing out on customer opportunities. And then finally, staff. They might overstaff in order to provide the best customer service, but they might end up paying for idle hands. So, all in all, restaurants are losing to demand uncertainty. This is where Orama comes in. I'm Rosario Lombardi, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Orama, the secret ingredient to profitability. We use machine learning to make demand forecasting faster, cheaper, and more accurate. But how do we actually do this? What we first do is we take restaurants' historical sales data directly from their software systems, and we're able to incorporate external data sets like the weather, local events, holidays, amongst others, to train individual models for each restaurant, allowing for this incredible precision. This allows us to give them recommendations on how many ingredients they're going to need and how many customers are going to come to the door. So with Orama, restaurants can reduce food costs, optimize staffing, and make their customers happy. Let's talk about the market opportunity. We're looking at a total addressable market of 1 billion euros, including restaurants in the EU and in the UK. The SAM includes restaurants in the top 5 countries in this region, and the SOM assumes a capture of 15% of market share. It's also notable to say that the CAGR of the global restaurant technology industry is growing at a 16%. We know we're not alone, but we also value this competition, as we were mentioning earlier today. So what do we do to differentiate ourselves? We offer demand forecasting, but we do it in a very precise way because we're able to train these models specifically for each restaurant, tailoring these AI models for them. And then we're also able to provide flexible outputs depending on each specific restaurant needs. So, competitors are not doing this, and the way we actually found out about this is we talked to them and we asked them what they were doing, and some of them are not commercializing some of these features yet, though they are exploring it. And then we also talked to clients who ran some of these pilots, and they said they were not satisfied with either the results and the precision, but also the customer service that they received. So where are we today? We have interviewed over 40 key players in the industry. We landed 6 successful pilots with players like Goico, Maison Kaiser, Cañas y Tapas, and we were able to land a 1-year contract with Grosso Napolitano to keep streamlining this solution. But what's most important is that we have already proved a 30% improved accuracy compared to internal solutions. Let's talk about how we make money. We charge a monthly fee of 100 euros per location, and depending on the size of the restaurant, this will result in a different ARR, of course. For our go-to-market, we're going fast and furious. The first year, we're targeting smaller chains in Spain using founder sales and free pilots, finding our customers on LinkedIn and sending out newsletters. In the next couple of years, we're targeting bigger chains, entering France and Italy, starting our sales team, and going to local events and SEO. I would also love to talk to you later about partnering with different suppliers of these different restaurants like Glovo, Coca-Cola, etc. And then finally, by 2028, entering hotels, the hotels vertical, Germany and UK, and growing our sales team. But our secret recipe is actually our team. We have a very complementary team coming from strategy and digital transformation, computer science and AI, marketing, product, and people. And we're also backed by an amazing team of experts from both the entrepreneurship, but also the client side. So what are we asking for? We're asking for 250,000 euros that will be deployed in product development, the admin team, customer acquisition, and operating costs. This will allow us to break even in year 2 and achieve over 15 million revenues by year 5. So, remember that restaurant that was losing over 1.5 million euros in revenues due to demand uncertainty. With Orama, they could have saved up to 450,000 euros. This is not a nice to have, this is a game-changing solution. Because in a world full of uncertainty, certainty is power. And Orama is here to bring that power back to restaurants. Thank you.
Hey, great pitch, thank you. I have a question regarding pricing, especially you just mentioned that you could save restaurants up to €500,000 per year, and you're charging them basically 12,000. Why not increase this, especially with such a small ticket, which is €100 per month? In the industry, it's not that common to have usually such a low ticket, especially in chains. If you go to players like, I don't know, Haddock or Last Up, you probably know about them. They have probably, I would say, 150 to €200 in single locations. So in groups, there's the chance to actually upsell. What do you think about this?
Yeah, so basically we are talking to these different chains, and as you mentioned, Last Up, POS systems, inventory management systems, etc. They are used to seeing, the chains are used to seeing this price actually going from 80 to 250, and because we're just starting, we are going with this 100 price, and because we're just giving this demand forecasting projections and solutions. But as we evolve the product, I'm sure this price is going to change. But all in all, yes, we're saving them a lot of money, but they are used to seeing this price in these different chains. Like we can't charge a crazy amount because this is what they're used to seeing.
Okay, have you tested commission-based?
Sorry?
Have you tested percentage-based instead of a fixed fee?
So the thing is that the benefits of the solution is not just what they're wasting in food, it's also basically, plus not all of them measure how much they waste in food. So it's not only that, it's also the missed opportunities. So if they are able to predict that more people are going to come, then they're able to sell more. So then there are things that aren't really measurable, I would say, but they are more like mindset shift things where they can earn more revenues. So yeah, that's...
Thank you.
Of course.
All right, thanks a lot for the pitch. And you obviously have a great impact, and thank you for putting the SDGs on board. Maybe a quick question, because for those type of algorithm and AI to work, you need a lot of data. And I assume this is restaurants that will put the data in, right?
Yes.
So do you have any strategy to have more data for it to be very accurate? Do you give it for free for them to try, give their data for free, and then you have more accuracy in the model? Because what's their accuracy right now? A lot of insurers are using those kind of models to predict, depending on the weather, on the district. Even we invested in a company doing AI like this for real estate investment to detect which house we should invest in. So how do you gather data, and what you plan to get more data to be more accurate?
Yeah, so what we do right now is basically we take the historical data, so restaurants, yes, give us their historical data, and we train models specifically for each restaurant, because we know that restaurants behave differently in different cities, and also based on the food they're offering, right? Because someone that's selling ice cream is not going to have the same trends as someone selling soup, because in summer one might be more profitable or more demanded than the other. So we train models specifically for each restaurant. Therefore, more data from another competitor is not really going to improve as of now how we are doing the solution. Is going to improve, I don't know, Grosso's prediction if we incorporate Goico's numbers. So that's one thing. The other thing, in terms of accuracy, it's an interesting question, because we're still trying to figure out what type of accuracy we want to share. Because if you take, for example, if you group a month of data versus comparing by ingredient, by location, by hour, you're gonna get more like a forecasting result that's going to be higher the more granular you get versus the more aggregated data you have. So there are some solutions that say we offer a 90% accuracy rate, but it's like, what are you actually measuring? So it's not like I can choose a number that's going to be very beneficial for me, but it's not really going to create an impact. That's why with Grosso, the way we're doing it is we are comparing our results compared to their internal results, and that's where we got that 30% improved accuracy. So we're 30% more accurate than they are.
All right, makes sense. And maybe a quick question on also how you get the data from the restaurant. Are you plugging yourself to maybe the payment system so you can see right away?
Yes,
right?
Exactly, yes.
All right, very clear. And did you think about a system that will retarget the clients as they are more likely to be the right time to come back, and for example to build kind of a system that will get the clients to come back when they are actually the most relevant? We've seen companies do that to avoid waste and provision, and they have the full database of clients, and you can actually push them a notification on the phone or SMS like, oh, get a free donut if you get your sushi today here.
Oh, interesting.
Have you thought about like maybe trying to get more clients in as well?
No, we haven't thought about that. It's a really good point. I think we're kind of focusing on this solution for now, but there were some ideas in terms of like, oh, maybe we can create like a marketplace later for them to like trade, you know, the extra food that they have or the surplus food, or even when you talk about staffing, like, oh, you need someone else and you can like, you know, share resources. But yeah, haven't thought about that. I'll talk to you later.
No, all right, thank you.
Hi, Rosario. Hi. I'm super passionate about SaaS for restaurants. In fact, for 2 years at Globo, I was leading that division. And we gained a lot of powerful learnings from there because we invested into SaaS companies.
Yep.
One of them, we decided to shut it down. The other one, we sold it. And I wanted to warn you a little bit on some of the things that can go wrong.
Yep.
One of them is the cost of acquisition.
Yep.
Don't underestimate it. I was wondering, why are you targeting so small chains right now, only 5 locations? What's the interest behind? Is it because you want to train your model? Is it because you want to prove your product first and see if it has product market fit? Or is it because you're having another strategy?
Yeah, so the way we are targeting restaurant chains with over 5 locations, but we're also going, for example, with Grosso, they have 45 locations. We're doing Goico that they have over 120. So we are working with different ones, so different sizes. But we wanted to be cautious that we want to build the solution and kind of finalize it with with restaurants that are not gonna really impact kind of like our reputation. Let's say we sign McDonald's for a pilot and then the solution is not 100% ready.
Great, it makes a lot of sense. I recommend you that you are keeping super close to those customers so that you can iterate and that you can grow your product, and whenever it's ready, you expand it further. I also suggest that you explore talking to some aggregators because they already have this access to the POS systems. They have massive access already, so maybe at some point you should be exploring a kind of partnership with them, or at least understanding their business model, because they've been through this cost of acquisition first, and at some point some of those aggregators are very tech savvy as well, so they must be willing to enter your area at some point. So you need to be careful with the window of opportunity and know their space as well. Also, regarding those close connections, if you fail, the word will spread massively as well. So this is why I suggest that you really test your product and that you really develop it, because the word of mouth is very powerful in that arena. Well done, thanks.
Perfect, thank you. I think we will have to come to an end at one point, but that was very interesting. Okay, now let's give a warm welcome to entirely Esade-based startup. Please welcome L Squared.
Good afternoon, Sharks. Dear audience, thank you for being here today. My name is Alba, and I'm the co-founder of L Squared. We're a B2B lead generator that will boost European solar energy. I'm super excited to be here today with my team, Jeremy, Philippe, and Ayush, to introduce to you L Squared. So let me take you back to where it all started. This is a cute photo of me a few years ago. I was working in Germany in solar project development. What did we do? Have you ever driven down the highway and noticed these big, beautiful solar farms? That's what we developed. And as you can see, in order to build a project like this, you need a lot of large land plots. This is called land sourcing, and it was the most tedious part of my job. The way we were doing it at my company was through fragmented manual channels. We were scanning through Google Maps, we were driving around looking for suitable land plots, and we had no tools to analyze the opportunities that were coming in. The impact of this was that we were wasting a lot of time, we were analyzing low-quality leads, and we were converting a low number of projects. Doesn't sound great, right? So what would I have wanted back then? I would have wanted 50 qualified leads on my desk, ready to go. So I built a tool to do just this, and it was basic, but I implemented it into my company, and we successfully started sourcing more land plots, and we were on track to close more project deals. Life was good. And then I got fired. Along with the rest of my team, the company decided to shut down all the projects in my department. And with that, my model was also discontinued. I was frustrated because I knew that the model was working well, and I knew there was potential. But I didn't want to give up on the opportunity. And that's when I came to Barcelona, and this amazing team came together, and we started looking into the opportunity. Naturally, the first question we had was whether other people were also having this problem. What we found, other companies were also struggling with this problem. They were wasting a lot of time, they were analyzing low-quality leads, and they didn't have any tools to support them. My team and I saw an opportunity. What if we could expand the model? What if we could help other solar project developers out there source land more efficiently, climb out of the Stone Age system that they're working with just as I was back then, and help them close more project deals? So that's exactly what we started building at L Squared.
Do you remember those 50 qualified leads that Elba wants to have on her desk? I'm going to show you how we are going to do that. Over the past week, we have been building a model using satellite software, and here's the customer journey. We are first going to ask for the client's input, run their criteria through our model, and directly provide them a list of land plots that they can work on straight away. Through our conversations, we understand that solar project developers, they are currently working with a small amount of raw leads with low conversion rate. With L Squares, you no longer need to work with raw leads. We can directly provide them with a larger amount of qualified leads with higher conversion rates. Essentially, we can shrink their working process from weeks to days while generating more revenue. We have three business models. We have a subscription model that's going to guarantee the baseline of our revenue. But the larger part of our revenue is going to come from a success-based model where we will charge a small percentage of commissions once the project is sold. You may be wondering, why are we tackling this now? The thing is, renewable energy is more relevant than ever. Europe has a goal of reaching 750 gigawatts of solar energy by 2030, which is equivalent to 2.5 billion solar panels. These targets are pushed by EU commissions and large investment funds. Solar energy is here to stay and grow. The opportunity is massive. In the first stage, we are going to focus on small and medium-sized solar project developers with a 20% market share, which is equivalent to 35 million obtainable market. But remember, this is just the first stage. We are first at Europe, and we're going to go global. On top of all, we are also going to expand the business horizontally into wind farm, hydrogen, battery storage, data center. Any business that requires finding a land could be within our scope. And now, I would like to introduce you to the team that's going to make it happen. We have Elba, who has a deep domain knowledge, the drive, and the passion to lead this project forward. We have Philippe, who has strong business management and communication background, who is going to be the voice of our brand. We have Ayush, who has strong analytics and strategy background, who is going to be the engine of our operation. We have me. I was working in the data analysis startup for 4 years, and I built a sales team from scratch. I intend on leveraging my previous experience to generate revenue for L Squared as well. Together, we have a combination of industry knowledge, technical skills, entrepreneurial grit to make this happen. In order to make that happen, we are looking for 150,000, distribute them through product development, business development, and data engineering. And this is what we're going to do next. We already have one pilot partner. I'm going to find another pilot partner by May. We're going to build our MVP, improve our MVP with our customers, and launch the service in December. This is just the beginning of our journey. We are on a mission of helping Europe to achieve 2030 renewable energy goal. Capital is crucial, but what we would really love to have is a partner that share our value and shape the future with us. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Really interesting. And do you know Neoen, the unicorn in France doing an energy plant?
Sorry, can you repeat the name?
Neoen.
No, I haven't heard of them.
They might be a customer for you, and I would love to intro you to them.
Amazing.
Because right now you're looking for a second pilot by May. Like, what's your strategy to actually get to them? I assume there's different new startups coming up with those kind of solutions. So can you tell me what you tell them to actually convince that you're actually the team to bet on for those pilots?
Well, because this is the pain point they are experiencing on a day-to-day basis. And honestly, it's, according to Elba, it's a very tedious part of a job. You drive around on the highway and find a land plot. It's not something that they want to focus their time on. So if I offer them a solution to take this tedious part of their job out of the plate, they tend to be quite happy with it.
For sure, and nobody's doing that.
So, of course, we've looked into the competition as well. There's 3 kind of type of competitors. One of them, for example, Plant Predict, they do something similar. However, they're very focused on the technical engineering part. So once they have the land plot, they do the kind of design engineering of the plant. So they look more at like the power generation, you know, how can they make that more efficient? But what we do is the stage before. So we're really looking for the land plot. We're doing site selection. So there's quite a big difference in kind of the stage that they're targeting. Other competitors like DVLP, they are only in the German market. We're focusing also on Spain, on Sweden, on Portugal. And the third type of competitor, they in general also offer something similar, but they're offering software. And what we're trying to do with our project is that we're taking away the time that the client needs to also buy that software, integrate it, train their team, spend time on learning that software and using it themselves. We're doing all of that for them and just selling them the leads straight away so that they don't have to spend time trying to figure out how it works. So those are the main 3 differences.
All right, thank you.
Hi Alba, how are you? Great chat yesterday, thanks for the pitch. I have questions regarding the moat a company can build. Are you looking to sign exclusivity deals with clients? How are you thinking into the moat and, let's say, defensiveness against similar companies that can arise sooner or later?
Sorry, could you repeat that? I couldn't really hear that.
I was asking regarding the moat the company can build against other competitors. I'm assuming product developers are looking for qualified leads in many spaces. If there's a similar company offering similar leads, why would they not choose them? Are you looking to fix this with exclusivity deals, or how do you think about this?
Yeah, we were looking into offering exclusivity as well. So obviously, if we're working with one developer and another one, they might be looking for similar types of leads. That would be included in the kind of monthly subscription. So whether you want to have an exclusivity, that would add a premium on top. So we would charge that and ask them if that's what they want. Obviously, that makes it more competitive for them. So we're expecting that people would be interested in that, meaning that we would offer them a lead and then reserve that lead for a certain amount of time before we offer it to somebody else.
Okay, thank you.
I got a question. Maybe I didn't get it right. At the beginning, were you saying that you are saving 15 hours of work? Is it correct?
One of the potential partners that we talked to, they mentioned that they were, with the three of them, they were working around 15 man-hours a week to just look for land plots. Yeah, so that was 15 hours a week.
And also they are working with a very low amount of role leads per week, 1 to 5 role leads per week, in which they are going to study on the leads, on the lens to see if there's potential or not. So, so this is where we come in.
Okay, because it wasn't very clear to me the ratio, right? And I just want to understand if I were a company, a solar company that is doing this kind of prospection, really which is the cost that I currently have. Because I understand that this kind of tasks usually are led by analysts, probably, so shouldn't be people with very high wages. So I was just wondering, you need to be very specific on the real win, because whenever I see 15 hours per week, for me it doesn't, the price needs to be super low for that to compensate 15 hours of manpower, right, of an analyst. So really try to be very specific on the amount of leads that you can acquire and that potential upside that you're providing the company, and that cost reduction that they are getting needs to be much more visual. 15 hours per week for me seem very low.
Yeah, I mean, that's correct. And that's also what we discovered while we were doing the research, and we said, okay, you know, that's a small amount that we're improving. However, the leads that we're delivering are more qualified, and how it works in the industry is that when you have your raw lead, you first need to check if it's even qualified, if you can even build the project there, and that comes at a later stage. And the companies we've been talking to, they also admit, you know, they at a later stage start discovering things that they didn't consider at the beginning that now cause the project to fail through. That's one of their conversion rate issues, is that the project fails through because of factors that they didn't consider at the beginning. So what our model does is not only save them those 15 man-hours a week, that's just for the raw leads, but all that work later on for the feasibility check that they need to do to see if the land is qualified, we're integrating that already into the model, which gives them those qualified leads. All of that time that comes later on, that's also time saved. We haven't shown it on the slide yet, but we're going to work to calculate that and make it more evident, because you're right, 15 hours is it's not that long.
Cool, so iterate a little bit your pitch and try to find this unique selling proposition that is really catchy, so that investors don't have these kind of questions in their mind.
One of the issues I've been facing in this discussion is that their process are not really standard. You know, they may spend a bit of time finding a land, do a bit of feasibility study, and then do some other paperwork, and then come back to it. So when I'm asking them these time that they're spending are, even they don't know. I've been conducting a lot of interviews and everything, but it's quite difficult to get a concrete number.
Yes, I surely understand your value proposition. You just need a catchy number for the investors to understand the value that you're going to be providing.
Yeah, thank you for the feedback.
Great.
We'll integrate
Thanks
that.
so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you guys, that was amazing. Now for the final pitch, we have an online pitch as the startup featured. The founder is sadly quite sick and couldn't make it. The startup is part of the Harvard Accelerator, as well as the King Accelerator, so yeah, enjoy the video.
To nudge consumer behavior in the fight against climate change. This is especially important in the food sector, where a third of worldwide emissions are coming from. The most day-to-day consumer decisions are happening, and only a fifth of the consumers that say that they are sustainable consumers actually act accordingly. This is why I founded Carbon Tech, a climate tech startup that empowers food and beverage companies to track, reduce, and communicate their product carbon footprints to their consumers. The problem that we are solving is that over 50% of the growth in the food and beverage sector comes from products making green claims. This is driven by over 90% of the consumers demanding more transparency and are willing to pay around 10% more for sustainable products. At the same time, we see regulatory pressure rising through the Green Claims Directive from the EU, for example, that fines companies that make unsubstantiated green claims £2 million. And making substantiated green claims at the same time is super expensive. So LCA consultancies charge around 200,000 annually. So a lot of small and medium-sized food producers are stuck with the problem of not consumption. They want to tap into this growth potential, but they don't have the money to comply and are afraid of not complying if they do the calculations on their own. Carbon-Tech solves this problem by unlocking the growth potential for our clients of up to 20%. This is based on a study we did, and through simple and affordable green claims. We ensure compliance with our rigorous methodology and accurate emission data while reducing the cost of the carbon analysis through automation by over 19%. How do we do this? Well, all of this is based on our proprietary database that has over 1 million data points. Each data point has an academic source attached to it, so you see exactly where it's coming from. We developed a unique reliability score for every data point so that our clients see directly which data point is how reliable. And of course, this is all compliant with the necessary standards. From our clients' perspective, it's super simple. They can upload their primary product data in under 5 minutes on our platform. So that's super basic product data, such as what is the ingredient composition, where's the product coming from, and so on. And they get instant results. They see a dashboard where they see the emissions along their supply chain. They can compare their products against other products or against the market. And of course, they get compliance data. And based on these results, we can then provide them with a green claim. So here on the right side, you see one of our clients, Vanotza, is a vegan feta company, and we enabled them to make the claim that their vegan feta is 50% less CO2 intensive than dairy-based cheese. Our total addressable market are all small and medium-sized food producers in advanced markets. And our business model is that we charge per SKU around £750 annually, and with an average number of 26 SKUs per customer, we have a total addressable market of over 10 billion. The serviceable addressable market are 19% of that, because that's the share of actual sustainable companies that are interested in making these claims about their products. And then as a beachhead market, we really want to narrow down on the sustainable food producers within the EU that now have to be compliant with the Green Claims Directive. And that leaves us with a serviceable obtainable market of 54 million. The reason why we focus on small and medium-sized food producers as our entry market is that we, of course, talk to the larger ones as well, such as Nestle, but they are currently building in-house solutions for this problem. We believe that in the long run, there's no way that their in-house solutions will be cheaper than just working with us. But as an entry market, we are focusing on small and medium-sized food producers. What makes Carbon-Tech unique? Well, we basically flipped the whole LCA process completely on its head. So we talked to over 100 clients to understand, okay, what is the job to be done and what is the problem that we have? And we realized that it's really a question of data availability. So they really struggle to get the data points that they need for a full LCA, and then data reliability. So once they have these scattered data points somehow together, they really struggle with the risk of greenwashing. And how LCA consultancies have solved this so far is they come to the client and they overwhelm them with data requests. So you have to talk to all of your suppliers and so on and so forth, and you have to pay 200,000 plus it takes a couple of months, sometimes up to 6 months before you then get a result. So you basically don't know where you're standing, and then the result is also not flexible. So if you change something in your supply chain, you have to get back to the LCA consultancy to change it, and this will cost you another week of consulting fees. And we flip this on our head by having this proprietary database that we built over the years. We can offer our clients an upfront assessment. So the first contract that we have with the client, they have an already calculated product, And now they can, we developed this reliability score so they can see exactly which data point is not reliable enough to have the compliance level that they want. And they can specifically request this data point from their supplier to get the compliance that they need. And this really streamlines the whole process and also just directly gives them an idea where they're standing before they have to make any commitments to us. And that really revolutionizes this process. This is also hard to replicate because we worked over 4 years on this database, first as a research initiative in partnership with Alnatura, the largest organic supermarket chain in Germany, to really build a database that is proprietary and tailored to filling the data gaps of our clients. And for the reliability score, we are currently in the process of getting a patent. Who's our team? Marcia is our CEO. She has over 5 years of experience in the climate strategy and regulation space. She handles most of the external business, such as the partnerships or the commercial side of things. I have a background in consulting, so I take care of the operational management. I deliver our client projects, for example. And then we have Leonardo, our CTO, who's building our product with over 4 years in tech from Taya. So that's a unicorn startup. So he also really brings the startup spirit to the team, which is amazing. And together we have a great complementary expertise, but really have the same mission of fighting climate change with behavioral economics. The status quo is that our pilot version is live and has already gotten the first traction, which is nice. So we did over 10 pilot projects, and now we see that the first clients are willing to pay us for our pilot product on a reoccurring basis. And yeah, since the 2 months where we launched our version, our current version, we are in active sales conversations with over 22 companies. What we feel, what we see now is that we really want to accelerate our product market fit. So of course, speaking to all of these companies and always asking them, okay, what does it take to convert you? We see that the third-party certification is a key point for our product market fit. So this is one of our fundable milestones why we raise a pre-seed round now. And that's just important so that clients can really trust our data. At the same time, we really need the patent protection, and AI integration is a huge step for us as well. So these are the key things for which we are raising our pre-seed round now. If we raise this pre-seed round, we will have a runway of 18 to 24 months until we then raise our seed round. And our vision is then, after we've raised the seed round, to branch out to other sectors such as fast-moving consumer goods or fashion. And we are already in contact with a few firms there, such as Colgate. The concrete investment opportunity is that we are raising £500,000. We are founded in London. So we also have the SEIS, so Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme assurance from the UK government. And yeah, as I said, the fundable milestones are mainly third-party certification, patent protection, and AI integration. And of course, the goal that we want to reach 1 million annual recurring revenue. And for that, we need 50 paying clients. And this is what we are raising the £500,000 for. So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. I think with this, the second edition of Shark Tank has come to an end. I think we've thanked investors, we've thanked startups, but there's one big thank you left to all the attendees. Thank you for coming. And now I invite you to enjoy the networking lunch. Be sure to talk to Glovo. You can recognize them with the little Glovo sign. And yeah, thank you all for coming and enjoy the lunch. Die Rucksäcke, ja.